Welcome back, everybody. In this podcast, we are going to be interviewing No Rest for the Wicked's Thomas Mahler. He has a absolute metric F ton of things in this podcast. He goes over a lot of features that no one knows about that are coming in January 22nd's multiplayer patch, which is it's not just multiplayer, it's everything. Have fun, take a listen. It's pretty long. But trust me, it's got a ton of great content. My microphone was completely screwed in this.
All right, everybody, we've got an awesome show for you prepared. Thank you, Thomas, for coming on. We're going to be asking a lot about multiplayer. We're going to be talking about the future as far as minions and what they have planned after the multiplayer update. We're going to be talking about a little bit of the ARPG genre and where it is headed. And then we're going to put Thomas between two portals and ask him some fun questions and let him do what he normally does. At the end, we'll have a live Q&A with the audience. So if you guys have any questions directly for Thomas, we will ask that at the end. All right, Frosty, you love Wicked. Frosty streams it, covers all the updates. Frosty loves this game so much, he's already doing like timing himself, running the campaign. Frosty, why don't you start with a few questions?
Okay, so yeah, in about 5 days, January 22nd, the major patch, the multiplayer patch is coming out. There is more than multiplayer, so for those people who don't have friends, don't worry, there's stuff for you. But we're going to talk a little bit right now about multiplayer and what the realms actually consist of. My first question is, can you turn your already existing realm into a multiplayer realm?
Yes. Yeah, you can. Any realm that you created so far was a single-player realm. But the moment you try to invite other people, that's where you turn it into a shared realm. And that works for every realm that you ever created.
And can it be reverted? Let's just say people annoy you and you're just like, hey, I just want this to be back to single player.
Yeah, if you kick everybody, then that's it.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
How many players can share in a realm?
Total 4 right now is what we're supporting. And the reason why we decided on 4 is because we specifically designed Wicked in a way where we want social interaction, right? Where you don't necessarily want to play with complete strangers because they would fuck you up and destroy your realm and so on, right? So it's similar like Minecraft in that way, right? Like where it's like, don't invite people to your realm that might destroy your game, right? And so, yeah, you and 3 others can play. And yeah, part of the reason was also like how many friends do you have that you would play a game actively with over a longer period of time, right? Like for every day or every week or something, right? And for most people, that usually, when we asked folks, that was usually like 2, maybe 3, maybe 4, right? But usually not more than that.
If your server is full, let's say you have your 4 people in your server, and like, for example, I might want to trade an item to someone that's watching my stream, can I invite a guest to the server? Or they're just not permanent?
Not yet. So guest feature is something that we might just add in the future, right? Because we already talked about it. But for now, we first want to see, okay, how do people even use the whole multiplayer thing? What questions do they still have? What feedback do they come up with, and so on? I'm sure there will be quite a bit. And obviously, we're not done with multiplayer, right? There's going to be quite a bit that we're doing in that regard.
So I have a question, kind of piggybacking on what Frosty just said. So when it comes to isometric action RPGs, hack and slash, a lot of times, like supposedly statistically, 95% of players play solo. And the multiplayer features are basically what Frosty just said. It's for trading and, that type of content. So the multiplayer in Wicked, you would say, is kind of the inverse of that, where it's really for playing for friends, not for, developing trade economies. Is that correct?
Yes. So it's not necessarily for trading, right? Even though you can do that. And even on our Discord, we now introduced a little trade channel, right? Like if people want to really find insane items or, trade embers or something. But usually you will want to play with that group, right? Like we want people, like we want to bring that social thing back in many ways, right? Because what I saw happening is that in a lot of online games, what happened initially was that people made lifelong friends, right? If you go all the way back to Ultima Online or the early days of, the MMORPGs and so on, there's a lot of people that have stories of like, hey, I played this game with somebody and then met them, right? And hey, we're still buddies today, right? And that kind of went into the trash, right? We actually have Kevin Jordan, like one of the original World of Warcraft designers working on Wicked with us, right? And he always brings up this whole thing that in his mind, LFG basically kind of like killed World of Warcraft in some ways, right? Simply because in the early days, you used to have to be friends, right? And actually schedule things and do things together and so on, right? And in many ways, World of Warcraft was kind of like the social media thing before social media existed, right? Because people just hang out there, right? Chatted with one another and so on. And then they also had some fun interactions with one another. But then in order to optimize the game and to streamline it, right? Like the whole LFG thing came in, and suddenly you have lots of players who play completely solo, right? Or if they need a group, you just quickly do LFG and boom, that's it, right? And so what shocked me a little bit was that when we announced how co-op works and all of this stuff, right? There's so many players that basically straight up told us like, but I don't have any friends, right? Which I find a little bit sad. What I would like to get to is like games that actually encourage that, right? Where it's like, hey, just try to play with some random person, right? And you might just become buddies, right? And who knows where that goes, right? But I think bringing that back into games is a pretty good thing. I think for gamers in general, right? That's where I'm at. I also find like what the industry is doing right now, right? Like in games like Fortnite, I'm sure Diablo, Path of Exile, and so on do similar things, right? Like a lot of times now they're basically creating bots that have like player names, right? And that act like players. But it's like you don't even know anymore if you're playing with a real person, right? And I think that kind of sucks, right? Like I want these kind of like really cool interactions where you are playing with a buddy and you become lifelong friends and so on, right? Or you're playing with family and friends and so on, and it's just super fucking fun and you just hang out together.
Yeah, I also can see some people, even though there's difficulty settings now, some people are like, I might need some help, and I have a friend who plays, and they might just say, hey, I'll come with you, or even they'll jump into your realm and be like, hey, you use this dagger. This dagger is gonna be really fun, and like I put some nice enchants on it for you. And they might not even be able. They might not want to carry the person through the campaign. They're just like, hey, here's some few items, and here, come into my realm or something, and stuff like that seems really fun. But now, am I going to have to be online for my server to be active, or once I have an online server, you host it on your end?
Yeah, exactly. So we did a pretty crazy thing where we looked at how games usually do it, right? And in games like V Rising and so on, usually what you have is, and Terraria, Minecraft, and those kind of things, right? They allow you to create a private server. But that's usually a huge pain in the nuts, right? How many people actually want to have some fucking Windows PC in their closet, right? That they use as a server, and then, it's not online during the night, so now your buddy can't play and so on, right? So very early on, we made the decision that we said, fuck it, right? Like we'll just host it all, right? Meaning that you can create a realm, you can invite your buddies, and then even if you're offline, other people can keep playing, right? And that creates these really interesting social interactions where, hey, Frosty keeps playing, right? Like Aaron plays, Frosty keeps playing through the night. Aaron already has to take care of something, right? Of the wife or something.
Yeah.
And then he comes back online early in the morning, right? And hey, Frosty sent him some really cool gear and so on, right? That kind of thing, right? Where it's just, hey, every day you will be surprised by what other players are doing and so on. And you're actually building something together on your realm, right? That's the thing that we're going for.
But just to be clear, for example, a game like V Rising, you have to pay to set up a server. So with Wicked, you do not have to do anything like that, correct?
Nice.
Exactly. Same as with Minecraft, you have to pay, right? Like you have to pay for realms, right? Like I think you pay like $5 or something, right? And we were like, okay, well, we'll take care of that for players, so that it's just the smoothest experience, right? So that every player, even if you're younger and so on, can just play with your friends and don't have to stack up credit card bills.
Now, question on Two questions actually in a row here. One is, when you're saying before, if me and Aaron are on the same server, he's on in the middle of the day, I'm on late at night. Server resets happen. The plague or pestilence zones form. You need the materials from the pestilence zones to exalt your gears to make awesome endgame items. Can Aaron just go and clear the entire map, take all the items, and then when I get on at night, it's like I have to wait for him to upgrade? Or should I just assume he's going to be a good guy and share? Or is there going to be a way to reset the pestilence zones?
It is supposed. So obviously we will look at this and look at this whole thing very carefully, right? But think of it like we want it to be like a D&D session, right? Where if you play D&D together and, you're 4 players or something, right? And one player is sick, you wouldn't just, oh, screw that motherfucker, right? And like somebody else, like we just keep playing, right? And now he can't ever join again, right? The idea should be that you guys are actually communicating with one another, that you're, that you're not being jerks to one another, that you're actually trying to be nice and so on, right? So be nice.
You hear that,
Aaron?
I heard it. My favorite part of the multiplayer video you guys put out teasing it with the situations is in Diablo 2. Some of my fondest memories was going hostile outside of town and just fighting friends for no reason other than collecting ears and dumb crap like that. So I love the fact that it's oh, Frosty's pissing me off, I could just kick him off a cliff or stuff like that. But is it just a normal death penalty? So just an enemy killed him, if I killed him, it's how does that work? Basically fun PvP.
Well, for now you can just kill somebody else by tossing them off a cliff or that kind of thing, right? Or you can grief them in other fun ways, right? Like we showed it during the Wicked Inside, where first playtest, we all played, right? And I stayed on while everybody left, and then I just bought up all the houses in Sacrament, right? And was oh, I'm gonna sell them to all of the guys for a huge markup, right? So I'm sure there's gonna be many creative ways players will find to kind of grief each other, right? But the idea should be that they're nice to one another. Regarding PvP and so on, obviously we have a lot planned there, right? I've already discussed this many times on our Discord. Obviously, because of how Wicked works and the kind of combat system that we have, right? PvP makes a lot of sense in Wicked. It didn't, I was there at Blizzard when we worked on Diablo 3, right? And I saw all this stuff of oh my God, PvP was promised, but then it never came and all of this stuff, right? And there were good reasons for that because it didn't really make sense given that combat system, right? But Wicked, in many ways, the combat system is akin to what you see in a fighting game, right? Where it's there's actually animation commits and so on, right? It even has rollback netcode and so on. And it feels pretty fucking great to play against one another because you don't have these warping issues that even the Souls games still have and so on. So that is obviously coming. And then we also just want to have a duel thing in there, right? Because every now and then, even if you're out and about, you might just want to bash each other on the head, right? But that's coming in the future. For now, our main goal was let's make sure people can play co-op together and let's make that super fun.
With the co-op realms, is there any adjustments to, I guess, boss mechanics or difficulty of the realm itself while in co-op? And what are those? Or some of them?
Yeah, so basically what we did, I don't know why we always make it hard on ourselves, but what we saw immediately was that when you play co-op together, we didn't want to just do the cheap thing of just, we'll just increase enemy health and damage, right? And that's it. Because then what the experience that you're getting is that just all the enemies just become damage sponges, right? And that isn't very fun, right? If every single enemy I have to hit them 15 times now,
for sure,
simply because there's another player on the realm, right? So what we did is we went through every single area that we had, every single level that's there, right? And we designed it once for one player, then another time for the second player, then another time for the third player, and so on, meaning there will be new spawns, there will be new enemies spawning, right? There will be new things happening as you play with 2, 3, 4 players. And so that you also get a different experience, right? So that even if you played Wicked a lot in single player, already, right? That you might get a very different experience in your playthrough if you play with 3 players or 4 players, right? Where you go, oh my God, why is there this fucking boss now in the fortress, right? That wasn't there before. That kind of thing. So we're actually placing more enemies, we're changing the enemy groupings and so on, and we're also adjusting the stats slightly. That's how we decided to do it.
So it'll literally feel like an entirely different experience instead of just enemies having a lot more life.
I think so. It's not entirely different, right? The geometry itself of the level is still the same, but the actual scenario that takes place in it, yes, that's being adjusted.
Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next section here. We have an ARPG community. Not many people actually have friends. So for those who don't have friends, there's more powerful gear and crafting system that's going to be implemented. Specifically, what I want to talk about is I don't know what it's called, the implicits on weapons. They can now roll percent to crit chance. Are these percent to crit chance on weapons going to be in every weapon you find? And are they also going to be retroactively added to weapons you've already found? Or are they going to be legacy items that you just now need to find new items?
I'm pretty sure that only the new weapons will have those. So in many ways, right, like we do want people to kind of like, play again with friends and so on. And it doesn't drop on every single one, right? Like one of the reasons why we're bringing this stuff in is because you always have to look at the base, right? There's also new facets, right? So we don't want every item of the same type to be the same, meaning that if I have a claymore and you have a claymore, right, there should still be differences between those, right? Meaning, hey, your claymore might crit higher, right? Or your claymore might come with a unique facet that makes it maybe heavier, but also dish out more damage or something, right? That kind of thing. That's how that works. So, you basically have like unique distinctions on each item now.
Okay. The facets and the implicit crits that could be on a weapon, that can randomly happen when you craft also, or you have to find it?
Yes. No, it just randomly happens, right? So, yeah.
Frosty, I want to jump in for a second. I realized that we didn't actually talk about all these changes when a lot of them are coming at the beginning of the podcast. So, Thomas, correct me if I'm wrong. The multiplayer update drops January 22nd. Is that correct?
Correct. So on Thursday this week, the multiplayer update is dropping, right? We called it No Rest for the Wicked together. But it's not just multiplayer, right? It obviously comes, or the big theme about it is co-op, but it also comes with months and months of polish, of new features, of new items, of new stuff, and so on. So it's just generally going to be, I think, for most people, a way better experience, right? Like we worked a lot of stuff. So that even the players who play single player, I think, will get a huge kick out of it, right? You can play new classes in a completely different way. The way bows work, for example, has been completely adjusted. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in there that is just going to make the game, I think, up the polish level, another level, where it's just more fun to play.
Okay, awesome.
Now, with the facet system, I noticed most facets that you showed off were like, it does way more damage, but it's a slower attack speed. It adds fire damage to your weapon, but you have reduced stamina. Is there always like a kiss curse effect with the facets?
Not always, but generally speaking, we want those kind of like typical archetypes, right? Of like, hey, you decide what kind of class you are, right? And then, if you don't worry that much about focus, then you might want to get one where the focus is a little bit reduced or something, but you get another good bonus or something, right? Like we want to have just interesting choices in there. And that's what the facet thing is about.
Okay. Are they predetermined? Because I noticed, I think one was called like blunt, and it was like stronger hits, slower attack. Or can blunt also have stronger hits, less focus?
They are predetermined, so that you don't get crazy shit, right? Like, hey, more stamina, more focus, or something like that, right? So we make sure that there's interesting combinations there that are that drop on one facet.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a crafting question as pertains to multiplayer. So let's say you're out farming enemies for multiple days and you got someone in the city that's just basically upgrading all the recipes and the crafting benches. Is all of that shared in the world? So I don't have any recipes, I don't have any upgrades to my city, but since it's a shared city, I can access all that? Or how does that system work?
No, so we have the crafting table now, right? And that is per player. So the way it works is that if you already discovered an item, you can just research that item so you can craft it by using one research paper. If you want to randomly research something, that's going to cost you 3 or more, right? So there's a little bit of an extra cost for players who just got unlucky, right, and never found a particular item or something, and then it does kind of like a random roll, right? So that ultimately, if you really play for a long time, you might just be able to craft every single item in the game, right? But expect that you are going to spend quite a bit of time in the game if that's your goal.
Yes.
So, yeah, go on, Aaron.
So Frosty's playing 2 weeks. He has every single thing fully upgraded, everything unlocked. He invites me to play. I'm level 1. I enter the city. I have to re-unlock everything for my own character.
He can give you a bunch of research papers too, right?
Okay, I
you
see.
can
I got
actually
it.
research
But
it.
he has to learn it himself.
Yes.
He has to learn it himself, but if you discover it in the realm, it's going to be available for him. So it's shared in that respect, right?
So the realm
Aaron
has
will
the
still
pattern.
have to do the work. The realm has the discovery
Got
on
it.
it, but the player still has to do some work, right?
Now I was thinking now you've confirmed that. I noticed when I find an item, I've learned the pattern. Is that expected? That's how it's supposed to be.
It's about the discovery, right? So if you found a blood-rusted sword and you go to the scribe table, the item exists in the realm, right? So you can just spend one research paper on, now I'm able to craft it. If you've never discovered the item though, right, that's where you would have to do the random roll.
Okay, my last question. Yeah, it is. Now I'm thinking of a way of cheesing this, and I just have to know if this is possible. If I were to bring my character into a new realm that has a bunch of really awesome weapons on that character, does that realm now learn all those awesome attributes, or do I have to find the weapon on that realm?
If you do that, yes, you will be able to, cheese it.
Okay.
Why are you already trying to cheat, Frosty? Why
It's
do
not
you
cheating.
immediately go
It's
there?
clever use of game mechanics. That's what I'm calling it.
Yeah, next you're going to be changing
I'm
the
actually
clock
fine
on your
with that,
computer.
right? Like I actually think that's interesting. I think like turtling and that kind of stuff, right? I don't necessarily have a problem with that, right? Like everybody did that in Diablo 2, right? Where it's just, hey, I found these items. That would actually be better on this other class. So I'm just going to turtle that over, right? So I don't necessarily have a problem with that. And in general, especially given the class system stuff that we'll be doing and so on, that's how you will play anyway, right? Where, every weapon or every item in the game will then become viable to you, but you will still have to invest time into actually mastering a class.
Now, real quick, speaking of the class system, in regards to this crafting table and armor, I noticed armor are going to have classes like cloth is going to have like increased like focus, and like plate, I'm not sure, mesh is going to have like reduced focus and stamina regen. So it's if you have a really tanky character, you're going to be a little slower or not be able to regen as much focus. And vice versa with cloth, you can gain, you're just like better caster. Is that because you're planning on having that be like kind of more thematic for your classes going forward?
Yes, exactly. So that's what we've seen, right? So we went through all the armors and so on, and we just assigned them to classes to just see what fits what, right? And these are the things that we came out of, right? Like this would actually fit for the various classes that people play.
Will it say the buffs or debuffs on the armor itself, or will that be in the new information menu?
Yes, you see that.
Okay.
Yep.
Thomas, Frosty talked about crit. Is there any other new affixes you know off the top of your head are coming with this January 22nd update?
Yes, there's a ton. And actually,
okay.
Corey on our Discord shared a spreadsheet that has all of the new stuff in it, so people can just learn it already ahead of time.
Okay, awesome.
Nice. Speaking of affixes on gear, currently I need to go to a third-party site to see all the possible outcomes of affixes on my gear. And is there plans to implement an in-game feature showing you what the
Yes.
affixes could roll?
Yes, so that's what the compendium is ultimately going to be for, right? Like, we are introducing the compendium already in this patch, but what I always wanted to have is all that stuff just in the game, right? Where it's just, and turning it into a gameplay mechanic, right? So almost like a Pokédex, right? Where it's just, hey, the more you discover in the game, you will actually get rewarded for that and so on, right? And the more information that you fill in, right, that you'll get a little bit of a bonus and so on. Because usually if you look at bestiaries and that kind of shit, right, like if it's implemented just as a, oh, here you go, right, and it's just information, then that's one thing, right? But if you actually give the player some reason to fill these things in, right, then it's much more enticing to actually deal with that system. But that's ultimately all that information we ultimately want to have in the compendium, so that you don't have to go to external stuff, right? So that you can literally just look at the game and like see everything right there.
To kind of piggyback on that, I'd love to know your opinion as the person that's obviously creating Wicked, your thought on third-party tools. Do you think that any ARPG or game for that matter should need or rely on third-party tools?
I mean, that's always happening though, right? Like whether you want it or not, I think it's fine, right? Like if people make mods and like third-party stuff and like a class generator or a calculator or something, right? So be it. Like it's, you know, it's always going to happen, right? Like people want to just get all that information, right? And strategize and think about the best builds and so on, and give, you know, like people advice on like how it works and how to tweak the numbers and so on, right? And so, you know, that be a thing. That's totally fine in my book.
Cool.
So you mentioned mods and class generators. So you're okay with someone creating a mod being like, hey, like I made my own version of the Necromancer, or this is like an angel demon class, and having that be in the game?
Yeah, so I mean, it's not easy, right? Because we're running on a quite sophisticated network engine and so on, but there's already some mods and so on that you see on Nexus and so on, right? Where people just kind of like tweak certain things, right? And in many ways, like some of that we will probably do with realm modifiers at some point, right? That you can just set up a realm and play it the way you want, right? Because chances are we're not going to ever fulfill every single thing, right? And this discussion always reminds me of way back in the day when we played GoldenEye or Halo, right? Like I always played those games with like license to kill mode, or just, you know, without armor or something, right? So that killing people, like shooting people, would be much more lethal, right? So it's like one shot kill or something, right? And it was really cool to kind of like play that way, right? But it wouldn't have been fun for everybody to play that way, right?
Yeah.
So it makes a lot of sense kind of like for people to have realm modifiers so they can set up their realm in a specific way, right? Because again, think about D&D, right? You want to have people be able, like even if they played a long time already, right? Even just giving them one particular realm modifier might just give them a whole unique experience, right? And that is cool. Like some of that stuff we'll do with realm modifiers. A bunch of the stuff yesterday, people asked about a boob slider, right? So that stuff I'll give to modders, right? Like we'll let modders handle that, but other stuff I think is totally fine if we edit.
Okay, well, moving on from there. The new Exalt
you don't have
system,
any technology to beep my stuff.
with the new. Oh my god, already off the rails. Okay, so there's also a new Exalt system in the game, where I believe you'll pick a random one of your affixes and it will increase it by 50%. That can happen 4 times on the same affix. That's a lot of
more,
RNG.
by the way.
What do you mean? Even more than 4?
There's even more stuff that we added, right? Meaning there's also going to be Radiant Embers and Sublime Embers and so on. Radiant Embers basically just up the enchantment potential already, right? So, and we want to see people making really fucking crazy items, right? And the way you make really fucking crazy items is that you try to get the enchantment potential already to 100%. I probably shouldn't say that already, right? Because that kind of like gives the strat away. But if you get the enchantment potential to 100% on every single one, right, and then you do the exalting, right, obviously the numbers will be higher than if you start from a lower base, right? So ultimately, like that's what I would love to see, right? Like what kind of crazy fucking items people can come up with, right? To kind of like make their lives a little bit easier, and then share that in our Discord and so on, right? And like we're really proud of that class that they built.
And if you're able to make that item, that crazy item, does it break the game? Like if you get the absolute perfect, is it now a walking simulator?
Well, it yes, for now, right? But also for 1.0, there will be tons of challenge that we throw at you, right?
Okay.
In many ways, like you look at the whole infinite scaling thing and so on, right? So there's going to be lots of challenge, right? So in many ways, if you really want to max things out, you will also need fucking crazy items to play through the highest difficulty stuff, right? But for now, it's going to be interesting to see people in some ways breaking the game, right? Like, yes. They will be extremely powerful.
I like knowing that. I like knowing you can break the game. Like, hey, if it's possible, it's possible.
For the new gear crafting system, I saw you put a limitation on how often you can use embers on items, and some people, there are some mixed feelings on that. Yeah. Oh, the limitation's gone.
Yeah, so there was an interesting discussion that we had, right? So let me actually explain that from a design point of view. So initially we put that in simply because what we saw is that people farmed embers like fucking crazy, right? Embers are the item that you can use to re-roll an enchantment, right? Yep. So what we saw is that we didn't quite like, right, was that people farmed them like crazy, right? They even did separate realms where they farm those embers, right, and that kind of thing, just so they get them a little bit quicker. And what happened was that people got pretty much perfect gear already, like even before they entered the breach content and so on, right? And that kind of like took away the challenge for them, right? Like there's this whole adage of, you know, if given the opportunity, players will always optimize the fun out of each game, right? And they very much did that, right? Like they create their perfect gear by tweaking the systems, but trying to, you know, cheat a little bit, right? Even though it's not really a cheat, right? It's just exploiting the systems that exist. And then they're kind of like unhappy that there isn't more challenge in there, right? So what we wanted was, no, it has to be a journey that you get to your perfect gear, right? It should be a longer journey. It should be something that you work towards and then you're fucking proud of it, right? And so we introduced, or we tried to put in that reroll system, right? Where it's just, well, there's limited rerolls now. But the problem is, well, first of all, players don't like that limited thing, right? Where it's just, oh my God, what happens if on my fifth roll, I brick my weapon, right? I get one enchantment that I don't like, right? And now the weapon is not what I want, right? We thought we'd get away with it because the weapon would never be useless, right? Like it would still be good, but in people's eyes, if there's one enchantment on it that doesn't fit me, fuck that item. I'm never going to use it again, right? So what I did over the holidays was I introduced new ember types, right? So there's essence embers now where you can literally suck an enchantment out of an item and then apply it to another. And what that does is, now every enchanted item that drops potentially could be really good for you, even if it's a completely different item type, right? Even if you're playing some sword and shield, sword and board guy, right? And that bow drops, but if that bow actually has an enchantment that is really fucking great, you can suck that out and actually put it on your sword and so on, right? Then we also had void embers, where you can just reset it, right? So if the thing happened where, you know, like you kind of like brick your item on the last roll or something, right? You can just reset the whole thing. And then there's also embers where if an enchantment dropped, but didn't drop at you didn't get the highest roll, right? That you can actually apply those embers, and that increases the the enchantment power, basically. And so what happened was that as we introduced those things, that like they have the same loot filter, just Ember, right? And so automatically what happens now is that you will get less fallen embers, so less people going crazy with rerolls and so on. And that fixed the issue. Like we didn't actually need the rerolls anymore because now you can, it's basically just their agency, right? Now it's on players to go out and find a bunch of these embers and, you know, loot them and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no system that actually limits you from doing that, but you have to put in the work.
Yeah, you got to find them. You're
That's
giving
how it
the
works now.
community the tools to make that awesome item if they put in the work for it.
What the
instead of just one
community
thing.
came back with very strongly is that they want agency, right? And so we're giving them the agency, but they have to put in the work. So we're not limiting them, but, you know, like you can fix it if you want to, that kind of thing. There were other things that they asked for, right? Like, hey, if you want the limit system, it makes sense. We understand the design concern, but just increase the cost, right? But that's also kind of shitty. Then at some point you end up with, oh, re-rolling an enchantment costs 20 embers, right? And so on, it becomes ridiculous. So we thought the system that we came up with now is stronger than any of that stuff.
So you can now make your kind of perfect base item. You find an item that has a good facet, it has crit, you get all your enchants. Now it's time to exalt, and it hits the random one. And it's like, is that at that point, if it doesn't hit the ones you want, now you need to go craft a new one? Because before there's like 3 layers of RNG. Now the only real RNG that might brick, is it exalting, or can you reset your exalt?
You can void it, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Frosty, you want to talk some bow update?
Yeah, let's move on to bows, which is one of my favorite things. I'm going to be playing the new bow system. As a bow Andy over here, I am so excited. It is so fun. However, when I was playing in beta, people kept telling me there was a bug going on and that all of my things that I was shooting were exploding, and not everything's going to explode, but it might if I have the right quiver. How exactly, and quivers are a new system, how exactly are quivers going to work? Can you upgrade those at all, or are they going to be fixed? Because I noticed they were all white.
Ultimately, you will be able to do that. For now, you can't, right? Like quivers are basically just an offhand item, like the torch and this kind of stuff, right? But ultimately, we will add that to them, right? Quivers just basically change the projectile that you're shooting, right? And we did quite a bit of work there to reduce the noise, basically, that you saw on the screen, right? Because quivers are something that also was just my little Christmas thing, right? Like I always do quite a bit of work over Christmas because the team isn't there, nobody bothers me or something, right? And I just get my alone time. And I put in those quivers, and it was just really cool to be able to say, hey, I want to play an archer, but I want to freeze stuff, right? So I'm equipping a freezing quiver, right? And then you can do all these cool things of like, hey, but what if I find a bow that shoots 5 arrows at once, right? And suddenly you shoot 5 fucking ice projectiles at once, right? That comes in. And then, just generally with the whole bow thing, we just want you to feel like Legolas and so on, right? Like to have a lot of this really cool shit in there.
Every bow that I used played differently. You have like a different play style built into the bows. The starter bow, you start attacking while running and you're jumping around and dodging. Yes. The second bow I found, you're shooting 3 things at once. The third bow I found, you're doing like a This Is Sparta kick and you're knocking people off like cliffs and then you're shooting them.
Yes.
That is that.
And then there's also ones where you actually have to aim, right? Like where you actually get a line.
You can hold it in charge
shot with like a little laser and so on. Yeah, exactly.
I just think it's super cool. Go on, Aaron.
I'd love to hear a little bit about the thought process with Moon Studios around balancing bows. So this is really, I'm sure it's super difficult because obviously if they're too strong, you just sit back and shoot and there's no challenge. But if they're too weak or you have to get into melee range, now, you suck and it doesn't feel good. I'd love to hear just a little bit about how kind of with, parry and dodge, Souls-like combat system, the idea for bows in the future.
Well, in terms of balancing, we obviously have been doing this for quite some time now, right? So we kind of like know where the values fall, but we also a bunch of months ago, right, like half a year ago or so, I also created this whole really complex tool that basically goes through the entire database of like items and every single attack that's there and reports anything that is like too high, right? And there's actually multiple modes. Like you can actually look at it with just, hey, what is the DPS of that weapon? Then what's just like, okay, let's rate it based on power, right? Or let's rate it based on some complicated calculus. And so as I'm balancing weapons and as I'm going through that, I'm looking through all 3 different modes, right? And I'm looking at all the actions and so on. And I'm just making sure that, and I'm looking at how many frames does each attack take and so on, right? I'm just making sure that I hit the numbers right, basically. And that it feels good, right? That you always also have to do that final check of like just going into a game and, play through a section with like the stuff that you tweaked, right? And check for, hey, something OP here, is something crazy here, and so on, that kind of thing. That's how I do it.
Nice.
So eventually we're going to be able to enchant the quivers. Are you considering having a legendary quiver?
Sure.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not? Obviously.
Yeah. Speaking of, well, okay, now that I'm just hard pivoting, are there legendary updates coming? Because right now I feel like plagued and enchanted weapons are just so strong, and the legendaries are kind of just off to the side.
Yeah, so on the legendaries, we always kind of like pushed it aside a little bit because we always knew we're going to do the class system. And the design goal for the legendaries is we want that to be a unique design space, right? Meaning that, hey, here's how you play your class. But then you find the legendary, and that has a very specific playstyle, or opens up a very specific playstyle that is kind of like how people at Moon play it, or that is just really like opening up a whole new interesting thing, right? Where it's like, hey, here's this item has runes or enchantments that only drop on this item and that you can't get out and so on, right? And so there is some work that Timothy, one of our systems designers, already did to kind of like tweak that. But there's a lot more interesting work, I think, that is going to come because we're also upping the tiers pretty soon, by the time we hit 1.0, right? That right now, what people have is basically, well, half of the game or something, right? Or a portion of it, because you're only looking at tiers 1 to 3. And ultimately, there will be 6 full tiers in the game. And so there's a lot more coming, right? And as we basically introduce the class system and add more of these things, the uniques will be adjusted based on that.
Okay. Frosty, what do you think about switching to the next scene? How are you doing right now?
I got 2 more things I want to talk about. And okay, real quick, is there going to be a max player level increase in this patch?
No.
Okay.
So
is the new go on.
Yeah, so the reason why not, right, is because we didn't actually introduce new zones or something, right? Like as game designers, we always have to make sure that there's a red line experience, right? Where as you go through, hey, we give you about X much experience, right, for each zone and so on. And then, well, here's how long it takes basically to clear a zone, right? And then, here's the potential that you can reach and so on, right? And for early access, we basically are following the same strategy that Larian did, right? We don't want people to play everything in a chunky state in early access. Early access for us is there so people can just really fuck with the systems, right? And so that we really see what do players like, what do they not like, so that we can guarantee that at 1.0, you're going to get a motherfucking banger from us, right? Like you're just going to get a really great game, right? But it's not necessarily for, oh, you're going to play a level in a really early state or something.
There is a new element in the game, Bleed, that you just added. And I think you reworked Plague to be Lifesteal. Is there any new elements that we can expect coming in the future?
I've always said that we want to make sure, we want to get the most out of these elements yet. I think there's still quite a bit of work that we can do there, right? Especially given spells and that kind of thing, right? Once we feel like, hey, we covered all the design space that can be covered with these elements, then that's the time where you introduce more.
Okay, I think I'm ready here.
Good. All righty. Yep. Scene 2. All right. Now, everybody, We are now about 50 minutes into the podcast. Just a little announcement. At the end of the podcast, not only will we have a Q&A with the audience where you guys can ask live questions to Thomas, and me and Frosty will try and get through all of them. We're also going to draw 2 keys. So we're giving away 2 free copies of No Rest for the Wicked. So if you're watching, type in ! giveaway to get in for those drawings. All right. Sweet. First thing I want to do on the extra scene, Thomas, is just say congratulations, man. 1 million copies sold. I just kind of wanted to open it up. And I know it has been a journey, not only through socials and development and early access launch. Just wanted to, just say congratulations and kind of give you a little second to see how you're feeling right now.
It's pretty great timing as well, right? Because it happened right before we ship our multiplayer, right?
Yep.
But we saw obviously a huge sales spike already when we did the beta, right? Like it was pretty nutty, right? Like we already had big expectations, and then it blew past that. So we'll see where the launch will go, right? But I would expect many players will be very interested in the game now. Because finally it has multiplayer, right? And it opens up all of the stuff that wasn't there before, like trading and so on, right? And just people playing together, I think, is a huge boon, right? Like you being able to play with your friends and so on is just a ton of fun, right?
Yeah.
And that on top of, hey, we just polished the crap out of everything, right? And we introduced all these systems, we listened to all the feedback and so on, right? The game is just in a really decent state now, right? In a really good state where it's just really fucking fun to play. And so, yeah, it's just, we're obviously super thrilled, right? Especially given the state of the industry, right? The economy is in the crapper and so on, right? So we're just very grateful that, hey, Wicked is selling well and it's doing okay.
That is awesome. Congratulations, sir. I know this question's going to come up later, so we could just maybe tackle it now. And obviously, it's your best guesstimate. 1.0. Will this come with consoles? Do we have a date in mind, or at least like a year or quarter as far as when you think the game will be ready to rock?
I mean, we're burning the midnight oil. We're working as hard as we can on it, right? I can't announce, obviously, an official date or anything, right? We're already working on console versions. I have it running on the PS5 and so on already. And obviously, we want to support all the major consoles, right? Like, because it's going to be fun. And then the other thing that we're doing is, I think the way we do crossplay and cross-save is going to be quite bananas, right? Because there's quite a bunch of cool stuff that we're doing there. And I want to surprise people with that, right? But obviously, we have, I think, a very, very interesting 12-something months or so ahead of us, right? So I'll leave it at that.
Okay, sweet.
Real quick, I forgot to ask, is there in-game communication features like texting or chat, or is that something that's going to be later?
That's a very good question. So we had a realm diary feature that we didn't get in. That is literally just a feature that as you select your realm, right, or as you enter your realm, that just gives you basically a list of like, here's all the major beats that happened on your realm recently, right? So that if Aaron joins the game where you kept playing, right, that he could literally just go to the realm menu and then just see, at 6:45 p.m. Frosty slayed this boss yesterday, and then he did this, and then he found this crazy weapon, right? And so you could have arguments about who gets what and that kind of thing, right?
Oh, I can't hide my weapon from Aaron.
I'll PvP and just take it, so it doesn't even matter.
And then the other thing is, the chat, but that is only coming with a patch. That's not coming in this version because there was still some localization stuff and so on that we had to do. It's going to come pretty soon.
The new Embers, are they coming in this patch?
Yes.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Nice. I already see some questions. I know we're not in the Q&A yet. That's a little later in the show, but obviously Xbox, PlayStation. What about Steam Deck and Switch?
Steam Deck, we already supported for a long time, right?
Okay.
I'll give you a little bit of information. So, I mean, obviously, Steam Deck is, I think, a very is okay to play now, right? Like you will get around 35, 40 frames or so, right? With some frame dips, but I think it's very playable. If you then also install something like lossless scaling or something, you will actually get to a fairly good 60 frames experience with some drops and so on. But that's how I've been playing a lot, right? So every time I'm testing and so on, I'm using the Steam Deck.
Nice.
Pretty fucking good experience already. But obviously, there's also still huge optimizations coming, right? So there's some optimizations that were risky that we already wanted to bring in now, but we couldn't because they were too risky for to ship it now. But obviously now, as we're working on consoles, we're optimizing the crap out of it, right? I don't know if we'll get to 60 native on this particular Steam Deck, right? But you should get 60 native on your Steam machine, and obviously on the consoles it will run, because we'll have just one piece of hardware there, right? We can optimize the crap out of that. So yeah, does that answer your question?
That answers my question. Frosty, do you have anything right now, or do you want me to keep going?
You can keep going.
Okay.
I have a million questions. Just keep going.
All right. Now, obviously, the first part of this podcast, I've been a little quieter. Now we're going to switch gears and talk about the Necromancer, which means I'm literally never going to shut up. So I'm just going to have this kind of muted, but playing on the screen. This is an 8-minute video that Thomas has already released. And on this, where now it's not playing because I got to reopen it, he has shared the actual Necromancer class. I would love to hear a little bit about your design philosophy around it.
Well, it's not necessarily the class that yet, but I just started prototyping around because Necro, out of all the classes, obviously that's always the one where there's a lot of like, hey, can we play like Druid was a lot now because of the Path of Exile thing now, right? That tons of people asked for, hey, can we get a Druid class in, right? And Necro, same thing, right? Like people want summon classes and so on, right? And so again, this happened over Christmas, right? And every now and then I just jump into the Discord and just throw people something, right? Where I'm like, hey, I worked on something crazy. Do you guys want to see it, right? And so this was one of those things where it's just, I wanted to see what would that actually feel like, right? Because Necro has obviously been a thing for some time in ARPGs, right? But it's never really been applied to a Souls-like as far as I know, right? So I wanted to see what could that actually feel like, right? And I did a very early, like extremely early first test of like, hey, here's use summoning things, right? And what could we do with that? And so on. And so what I ended up with was basically a couple of actions, a couple of runes, where one of them you just summon like some characters that spawn with you. Or the other one was really interesting, where you just do, it's basically like revive in Diablo 2, right? Where if you kill an enemy, you revive exactly that enemy, right? So you could, like kill a crazy Nif Leviathan or something, right? And then just summon that for you, right? And the fun thing is it even worked on bosses, right? So I killed Warwick and then revived Warwick, and then Warwick was following me.
Does he follow you forever? Are they permanent until they die?
Yes, until they die or until you kill it, right? Yeah. And if they can't follow, right? Like if they can't climb a ladder or something, what I did for now is just that at some point they teleport, right? Like if they just and then come back into your screen. But that is really fucking fun, right? Like, and obviously I scaled the characters a bit more to your character, right? So that it's not too crazy, right? But obviously these are prototypes. There's one more thing that I didn't share in this video, which was Possess. And Possess is really cool, right? Because that is something that I haven't really seen, which is just there's the Soul Train ability where if you kill an enemy with that ability, you're actually taking them over, right? Meaning now you play that boss or now you play that enemy and run around the world and so on, just smashing things with all those actions and so on.
And your character like jumps into their body and it doesn't just stay where it used to be? Your
character remains where they are, right? But it's like in this...
could they be attacked while they're just standing there?
Yes, so you have to be careful of that, right? But then it follows the enemy character, right? And you run around with that enemy. I've never really seen that being done, especially not in a Souls-like thing and so on, right? And I thought that would be really fun. It reminded me of older games like Apes Odyssey or something, right? Where it was really cool to take over a lake, right? And then machine gun things down. And so same thing here, right? It's just fun to kind of like see what would it feel like to play this fucking creature, right? And then you just attack things with them and so on.
Okay, just in case anybody doesn't understand what Thomas just said, he said they are prototyping. When you kill an enemy, you could bring it back basically as a revive or specter. On top of that, you can possess an enemy and become that enemy. So not it's fighting for you. You are that enemy running around and attacking people with the enemy's abilities. Is that correct?
Yes. With the actions that they have. Yes. Yeah.
And that is,
keep in mind, right?
Like, I know you're prototyping, but that is
yes.
As
alpha,
much as things change into the future, you feel pretty confident that summoning archetype will come to the game officially in the future in some manner.
At some point, yes. I'm not guaranteeing it for 1.0, right? Because our tech folks will have something to say about that, right? And so on. But sure, at some point we will bring that in, right? I'm already prototyping it now. I'm going through all the classes right now, right? And making sure that they have really unique, fun ways to play. For example, with the assassin, what I just did is because we have this really interesting lighting system and light probe system, right? I just did a fun thing where we can actually fairly accurately detect if you're in light or in shadow, right? And then with the assassin, that is really cool because now you can actually like play in a way where it's almost like Metal Gear, right? Where I'm like, hey, I have to hide in the shadows and then the enemies don't see me. And then as they pass me from their patrolling paths or something, now I'm jumping at them with like a backstab or something, right?
That's cool.
So I'm just looking at how can I make all the classes feel really unique. And obviously the Necro, like, because there's a hit list of things that people always bring up, right? It used to be just when is co-op coming, right? Then when can I finally play on my PS5? And pretty high on that list was always, hey, are you guys gonna do a Necromancer at some point, right? So, and I just want to see, like, hey, let's make sure we actually work on those things that people constantly ask for.
Where would we have to get from a game sales perspective to get Necromancer in for 1.0?
I don't know. This is more of a tech thing, right? Because I was prototyping. Let's see how our tech folks actually react to this. So we'll have to see.
I'm already theory crafting the Necromancer build. Like, I'm gonna build a cleric, get its AoE healing spell, go Necromancer, and just keep all my minions alive the entire time.
Yes, there's also a heal ability that I implemented for them, right? So that you actually can keep your army alive, and so on.
Even better.
Yeah.
Frosty, it's driving me crazy. The video for Necromancer won't play. I was watching it.
Oh,
earlier,
no.
Now it's freaking broken. I don't know.
Do you have the raw file, or do you want?
Yes. Well, it's playing now. Let's see.
Okay, just don't
No!
touch anything. Stop.
Yeah, it kicks off. I don't know. That's
damn it.
it's okay. It's all right.
And keep in mind, this was still kind of prototypey, right? So it didn't have all the effects and all of this craziness that we usually bring in, but it was pretty fun. It actually worked a lot better than I thought it would. So we'll have to see.
Frosty, there was this picture.
But let me actually ask you guys, because that's also what I asked on the Discord, right? What would be your perfect Necromancer experience? What are the things that you want to see in that class?
That's an Aaron question for sure.
Well, yeah. So there's normally like a couple archetypes. One of them is like you have a permanent minion army where it's basically a walking simulator for the most part, and you're just buffing your minions. The other way is you have temporary minions where you summon them, they last a few seconds or go and explode or something like that.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, I'd much rather have the permanent minions. And more importantly, normally Necromancer players like lots of minions. So if it's we have one big minion that follows us around or an army of minions, we like an army of minions. So an army of permanent minions and as a true Necromancer, normally your minions die all the time. You could blow them up. You could, like you sacrifice them, stuff like that. And then you obviously just resummon them. So, and you have to be able to control them. So like go left, fight right, attack the archer in the back. Don't stop focusing on the tank in the front. So you gotta be able to control them as well. But
Make commands. Yeah.
Exactly. But
I already kind of did that because the way I implemented it was that it just they attack the thing that you're targeting, right? So if you target an enemy, that's what they will target as well, right? Like that's what they will, start to smash.
So based upon what I saw in the video, like my initial concern, and like I'm excited, but like, ooh, how would this actually work out? Is that if you're resummoning enemies that you defeated, what happens in a boss fight when all your minions are dead? Or how do you start your minion army if you need a corpse to actually bring them up? So you'd have to have
yeah, it's the old Diablo 2
you gotta
issue,
have a
right?
way
What
to
was
you
the
gotta have
boss
a way
called
to
in the
start the army.
second?
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I have to think about it. For now, it was based on the corpse thing, right? But obviously, like you could easily solve that by just adding more actions into it, right? Or other traits and so on that allow you to just spawn,
or for example, like once you
I'll have to see.
capture a corpse, that corpse you can now almost bring back out to to make the minion or something.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be that if your corpse dies, that's it, right? And it could also be, well, why not just revive that corpse again?
Yeah, exactly. But I like that you said you like permanent minions. Most people like permanent over temporary. And possess is very interesting.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because imagine the idea that you possess an enemy and now your character becomes the minion. So now your character is automated attacking like a minion, but now you're the enemy. That is a fantastic idea. That is a fantastic idea.
Two things. One, Aaron, I sent you a link. Maybe that'll work for the video. And if not, my second thing is there's at least 2 areas in No Rest of the Wicked right now that has a double boss fight. So if you kill like one of them, you can then control the other boss to fight the other boss. Is that something potentially that could happen?
That's the dream that I always want. I remember distinctly, right, when Diablo 2 came out, right, and the Necro was launched, right? I was like, that would be so cool, right? Please God, make it work on bosses as well, right? And didn't work, right? So let's see if we can make it work. In many ways, a lot of times what we're doing at Moon, right, is we're looking at that, right, at like what hasn't been done before, right, and how can we advance the genre forward, right, by doing crazy things that wouldn't even be tried in other companies, right? And so that to me is very interesting.
Yeah, I think your guys' ideas, I mean, those are, everything you said has been fantastic around the Necromancer class. I think it's going to be figuring out how to solve single target. Like you're in a boss fight. Like how does that Necromancer work? Or the Necromancer's really just like secondary damage. You have a couple minions, but you still do 90% of the damage. Or is it literally you're just facilitating your army? How do you maintain your army? Just like, those questions.
Yeah, I want that Diablo 2 experience just better, right? But I haven't played Last Epoch, or was there like what is like
Last Epoch mentioned?
So some people told me that Path of Exile and Last Epoch did some cool stuff about the Necromancer, but I'm not completely up to date on that. I have those design notes written down, but did they do anything really interesting with the Necro class?
I'm thinking you said interesting. I mean, I would say they are standard Necromancers. Path of Exile 2 did something pretty cool where practically every minion in the game, hundreds of them, can come back to fight as your army, and each one has its own individual tooltip. So it basically unlocks 200 different, I'm just throwing a number. I don't know if it's 200, but hundreds of different variations of armies you could do, which a lot of people like. That's their Raise Spectre skill. As far as Last Epoch, what Last Epoch does is it's got tons of different minions, and each minion has its own skill tree. So, you've got summon skeletons, but summon skeletons can turn into 4 different ways. and has 10 different combinations. So it's just different. It's different takes on it.
It's variations on that, but is there anything really new or interesting? Anything where it's like, okay, this changes the way I play the class? Like something like Possess, for example, right? Where I think it's really interesting to give it that angle where you actually play the enemy, right? And I'm wondering, is there more stuff that we could do? Because that's always the thing that I want to dive into, because that's the things that players get excited for, right? If you give them the thing that already existed, then it's one thing. But if you give them something that's like, this is fucking crazy.
But transforming your character itself, like almost like werewolf, but like lich form, is kind of cool.
Somebody in chat said Abomination in Last Epoch. Maybe in the Abomination in Last Epoch, it absorbs all your minions, and based upon the minions it absorbs, it changes how it physically looks and it attacks. So what it absorbs turns in to multiple different types of a minion. They have aggressive and defensive mode, so you could set your minions to stay close to you or go out. Those are both Last Epoch. But like groundbreaking, you know what? I can't believe I'm about to say this. What game has a Possess in it? It's actually, I think it's called actually Possess. Is Wolcen Lords of Mayhem had a Possess in it where you could actually possess every single enemy in the game, including bosses. So you could actually
that's cool.
Possess them in Wolcen. I knew he was going to say that. Yes. So,
for me, the World of Warcraft priest had Possess, and used to possess in PvP people and then have them jump off cliffs.
But none of them were possess as in you possess them and now you control them. It's you possess them and now they become one of your minions. Not you are the possessed.
The WoW one, you control them.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. They have both now. They have like Dominate Mind, which they're your minion, and then like Possess, which is you can throw them off cliffs.
Frosty,
do
you see what's on screen right now? I don't know I know you wanted me to show this. I know we talked
about it. Well, he was talking about before the different Ember options. I'm not sure if all those made it through. I sent you the YouTube link.
Yes, they did. I can break them down for you if you want to.
Yeah, okay. Right before you break them down, my last question on Exalting, it just popped into my mind. There are rings, like there's one ring that has increased like attack speed, and that's the only attribute it has on the ring. If I exalt that ring, is it just gonna like make the attack speed crazy on that ring?
No, on things like attack speed, we always have to be extremely careful, right? Okay. Because we are an animation commit combat system, and playing animations at like twice the speed just makes it look fucking crazy. And I don't think you can actually exalt the rings, right? Because they're uniques.
I think it was
internally they handle like uniques.
Okay, there was one ring I was able to exalt.
What the latest on this?
Okay.
I
really, I'm just trying to get
my ass. That's his thing, right? But I think I'm not sure what the latest on that is. I'd have to check back with Timothy.
Yeah. I was making a build where I went movement speed on pants, two different movement speeds on rings, and then a movement speed on shock. And my character was just like zooming, like it was almost as fast as I was teleporting. I was just trying to see if I can make my character even faster with the new Exalt system. Well, I probably can with the movement speed on pants. That can now be exalted to be even quicker. Okay.
Yes, nice. But keep in mind, there is always kind of like a soft cap by the time where we think it's crazy or it would break the game or something, right? You can't cross that boundary.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Go over the essences. Let's see what each one of these does.
Frosty sent me these for potentially bringing up on the podcast. As far as you've mentioned that these are coming with the January 22nd update. It'd be awesome if you broke down what each one does.
Yeah, so it's pretty simple. The Essence Embers are the ones that allow you to suck an enchantment out of one item. And then once you do that, you get a charged Essence Ember that then allows you to apply that enchantment to another item. Awakening and Corrupting Ember are pretty simple. Like if you found a really good white item, right? Like they just enchant, right? So you don't have to run all the way back to Eleanor in Sacrament and like enchant. you just get that. Radiant is the one that actually increases the enchantment power, right? So it actually also shows you what is the roll that you got on this enchantment, right? Is it at, what's the potential range? Like, is it at 75 or something, right? And this is the way you get it to 100, right? So they're really powerful. Sublime basically does the exalt for you, right? So that you don't have to run to the Watcher and don't have to get Blaked resources and so on, right? Like, they are really rare, but they're also, very convenient. And then Void is the reset, basically. Like, if you pricked your item, apply a Void Ember to it, now you reset it.
What does it reset? It resets the exalt or the full item?
It resets the full item. So you have to start from scratch.
So if you have that perfect base, you always have the option for voiding to start over if it goes
Exactly.
off the
So
rails.
it does not change your crits or facets or so on, right? Like, it will keep that. So if you found your perfect base, great. But if it then didn't drop, or if it didn't come with the enchantments that you wanted, that's how you reset it.
Okay.
Awesome.
Frosty, questions?
I just have some rough class system questions. I don't know if you can answer them, but are you planning on doing a skill tree for the class system? I know, or just at a certain level, they learn a rune or a passive.
Yeah, so we are doing a really interesting system for the class system, right? So I already openly stated that I'm taking a lot of inspiration from Yasumi Utsuno from Final Fantasy Tactics for the system, because I think the system that he came up with for that game was just fucking brilliant, right? And variations of that were also implemented in Final Fantasy 14 and so on. But I always thought that Final Fantasy Tactics did it so incredibly well and made it so addictive. So I have learned my lesson on skill trees on Ori and the Blind Forest, right? I shipped Ori and the Blind Forest, and it had a skill tree in it. And skill trees always come with the problem of, in order to get the one really cool skill that I want, I have to put some points into garbage, right? Like into stuff that I don't want, that doesn't fit my current playstyle or something, right? So I don't necessarily love skill trees, but I like what skill trees do, right? Like, there should be these nodes that allow me to customize my class. So we are going for something like that, where there's basically traits, right? And as you play the game and defeat enemies and so on, you get class points. And with those class points, you're basically buying what would be in the skill tree. Except the only good thing there is you don't have to buy any garbage, right? Like, you can completely min-max if you want to, right? Like, you can just go for the actual skills that you want, You don't have to go for,
2% stamina.
Well, you need that
exactly.
stamina, obviously.
Or put 2 points into Golem before you get the one that you want or something, right? That kind of thing. You can just go for the stuff that you want.
Who wants Golem?
Wait, Golem? Wait a second. Is that on the plan for Wicked, since you mentioned Golem?
Let me explain the class stuff.
Sorry, go on.
So there's these traits, right? And on the weapons, we already have the runes, right? You will have to master the weapon to be able to suck out the rune, right? And the interesting thing that we're doing with the class system is that you will be able to mix and match, right? So very similar to Final Fantasy Tactics, right? Where if you play a assassin, right? Like, you might like that trait where, hey, in the shadows, you'll be invisible, right? But then you have to get that trait, right? And then if you actually switch to a different class, like, Blade Dancer or something, right? You can actually use that there, right? Meaning that the base classes are just that, right? Like, they're just a base. And then people can come up with crazy shit by themselves, right? By just mixing and matching and so on. And because of the amount of stuff that we give you, the amount of traits that exist and so on, right? And the amount of runes and so on that are in there, I hope we will be able to cover most of the player fantasies that people can come up with, right? Because ultimately the idea should be that we don't know exactly how players want to play the game, right? If they want to feel like a super cool fucking ninja, right? We just have to give them the tools to do that. If you want to play some samurai or something, right? We have to give you the tools and the abilities to do that, right? But if you then come up with some crazy fucking idea, right? Cool, just mix and match and you will probably be able to get there, right? If there's enough traits, if there's enough runes and so on, so you can stick that thing together and have a class, it does these 20 things, right? And those 20 things completely fulfill my fantasy. then you're good to go.
Nice.
Frosty?
I mean, how far into development is it? When can we play the class system?
There you
just
go.
an easy question.
Yeah, so I mean, we are already testing it, right? Like, I'm actually kind of peeved about, we still have to keep things in default state now for co-op, right? Because there's a bunch of stuff that I really want to do already to the game where everything swaps over to the class system. But we first have to get co-op out and stabilize and everything and make sure that everything is perfect, right, before we're doing that. But there's this is definitely something that we're going to test on a broader range with the community, right? So before we launch, obviously, lots and lots of people will have tested the class system and how the game plays plenty of times, so that we know, this system that we ship there is a banger, because it is heart surgery, right? Right now, the system that we have is basically very similar to what you have in typical Souls-likes, right? It's a typical attribute system, and it's not bad, but there are inherent limitations that come with the typical attribute systems, right? And I think, and I hope that we'll be able to contribute in a really meaningful way, where it's like, once you played that class system and once you saw the power of it, right? And my hats off to Yasumi Matsuno for doing the first bit of that, right? I hope that a lot of games will actually start doing similar things, right? Because it's just the customizability that it allows you and so on will be fucking off the rails. It will be quite bananas.
So in this genre, people always talk about roadmaps, and we're going to release our roadmap for the future. And some people love it, some people hate it. So if multiplayer is January 22nd, the next big update for Wicked, what would you say is next on the roadmap? Is that the class system? Is that polishing? I'm sure you guys have plans, obviously, for the future. For the people that want to hear the nuggets.
I'm not trying to be mysterious or something, right, on purpose, but I first want to see how are people reacting to No Rest for the Wicked together now? What are the things that they're really talking about and so on? Because chances are, if we have a roadmap, right, and all the players are telling us, no, this thing has to come next because that makes the most sense, then obviously we want to pivot, right?
Yeah.
Because it makes sense. Because ultimately for us, to ship 1.0, I mean, we are already in a pretty good state. We're already working on all of the content and all the rest of the game for 1.0, the cinematics, everything that has to come in. And it's just a laundry list of here's the things that have to get finished, right? And it doesn't necessarily matter all that much if we first tackle A or C, right? So if people say, no, do C, right? C would be the coolest thing to add right now, then let's do C, right?
It makes sense to not do a roadmap. I mean, but then again, no one ever gets mad at a roadmap, right, Aaron?
That's very funny.
We did the same thing. We had a roadmap early on, right? Where we said, hey, the next thing after we launch is going to be multiplayer, and then we're going to do the breach, right? But then things changed, right? And then we did the breach before multiplayer simply because, it made a lot of sense that people have more content to play before everybody plays together. So I'm always kind of worried about that as well, right? Simply because if you put a roadmap out there, development is unpredictable, right? If things change, people will get super fucking angry with you, right? Even though, guys, if you would have been in the room with us and listened to our discussions, you probably would have come to the same conclusion.
How many more acts of Wicked, as far as campaign, are there still to go?
Well, in the breach, we doubled the content by adding 2 new zones, right?
Yep.
With 1.0, you can expect 4 more zones. So there's a huge chunk of games still coming.
So 2 more breach updates is what you're saying as far as size of content.
Yes, basically.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's going to be quite crazy. And obviously with 1.0, we have to make sure that there's end game stuff there, right? That there's a lot of scaling, that there's people can go crazy with the systems and so on, right? Because that's the thing where I think Path of Exile does really well, right? They just have a lot of systemic depth and so on. I think we're obviously smoking them on anything that comes to gameplay and feel and so on, right? But obviously then the goal is, let's smoke them on systems as well, and then let's see.
Wow. All right.
Frosty, between 2 portals, or what do you got more?
Yeah, I'm going to lead you into to that with asking this one question, and then we'll just switch the scene after
I'm already ready.
ask.
Yep.
So you mentioned 3 days ago on Discord There's one bigger system that's too risky to ship on the 22nd. We'll be adding that in a patch after. Can you explain
Yes.
what that system is?
Well, that's
Okay,
a
Switch.
system that you two are going to hate. It's the comfort system. So we have housing in the game, right? And I always wanted to make sure that people actually care about the housing as well, right? That they actually put cool shit in there and so on. By the way, there's also going to be some Twitch drops coming,
nice.
where we have some exclusive items, and I'm guessing you guys will do that as well, right? So, and hand that out to the community. So basically, the comfort system is a system that is pretty fucking clever. That's also something I did over the Christmas period, by the way, where it basically looks at your house and evaluates everything, right? It's basically like you leveling up your house, right? And then as you do that, it rates what is the quality of the items that you put into your house, right? What's the amount of variety and so on that you have in there, right? And then if you sleep in your bed, it actually gives you a buff, right? So it's that kind of thing. So I have that ready, but there was still some Loke stuff and so on that we didn't really like. That was too risky. So
before you log off for the night, you go to your house, get in bed, and then log out of the game.
You don't even have to log off for the night. We did it so that you, as long as you're in your house and you quickly take a nap, right, like you sleep, it will give you the whole description of like boom, 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 boom. Here's what your house like. Here's how comfortable your house is, right? And then it will apply these buffs to you. And it's just basically a way to kind of like encourage people to have some really cool cribs, right? Like, as I want to see that as well, that people invest in their homes and that there's basically a leveling aspect to the house as well.
Yeah, I mean, so one of your friends on your server who has got a closed house could be like, hey, I have all the buffs. Give me some embers and you can stay in the house overnight or something. And just kind of an interesting trading economy there.
Right. There's a lot of stuff, by the way, that we want to do for the multiplayer side as well, right? I will have to see how that will all work out in terms of like economy and like how people play with one another, right? But there's always these really interesting things that I wanted to do. Like, hey, you can actually buy a house and then don't use it as a house, but use it as a bar, right? Like, hey, you can, create a bar in Wicked, right? Where you put in barrels, right? And like, and the things that I always wanted to do is that if you put up a weapon rack, if you create an armory, for example, right? And you put up a weapon rack, right? Then you put in items and set prices. Nice. But then if Aaron interacts with that weapon rack, he basically gets a shop window, right? So that you can basically create your own armory or your own bar or your own kind of whatever you want.
Your kind of own bazaar.
Yes. Well, yeah, except it's not a worldwide kind of like trading thing, right?
Yet.
All right, everybody, we're on the Thomas, we got about 30 minutes left. Are you good? Does that sound okay?
It's weekend, right? And my wife actually is out with the kids, so I have all the time.
Same.
Okay, awesome. It's my wife's birthday, so
okay, let's go.
Damn it, I didn't plan correctly. Everybody, this is the third scene for the Townportal Podcast. This area is a little more lighthearted. We get to know Thomas a little better. So just know that the questions in this section are a little more edgy and jokey. Some people love this section.
Short answers too.
Yeah, normally short answers. You could go first, Frosty. I've got mine ready. It'll be a doozy.
Yeah, I got a few. I don't have as many as I normally do because there's so many freaking questions in the audience here today. But real quick, real simple and easy. Do you have a favorite fast food?
Pizza.
What's on your pizza? Top 3 toppings.
Nothing. Just mozzarella, tomato sauce, basil.
Oh, okay, like a margarita.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. My question. Lately, well, let me rephrase it. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best, how well do you think Mike Ybarra did for the Diablo franchise in helping with Diablo as far as managing it?
2.
Okay. I don't know. You got a follow up question, Aaron, or is that a?
I don't know how much I should follow up. I don't want to get Thomas in trouble. Not that he's going to get in trouble,
Okay.
but it's
All right,
fine.
But in the same regard,
We can follow up on that. By the way, I'm happy to talk about it, right? I think if you have been responsible for fucking Diablo Immortal, get the fuck out of the room. It's just...
yeah, that was a big blow. I was very excited for a new Diablo game, and I was like, oh, that's how much I need to spend to compete with other people that have a leaderboard, and they have like an algorithm where they're putting you next to other people that paid a lot of money, so you feel bad. It was great. But okay, no.
Don't
that
you
aside,
guys have $180,000?
Yeah, don't you? D3 or D4? What do you think is better?
I would say D3.
You know what? I'm going to agree with you.
So,
But I think D2 is also a bit better than D3 and D4.
No, yeah. I didn't have to ask that. It would have been D2.
So you would say that following Diablo 3, Blizzard Entertainment took the genre in the wrong direction. Is that correct? So obviously, Diablo Immortal, everybody knows the meme of that game. Financially, business-wise, supposedly it's made $1 billion in profits. So from like a business standpoint, it's successful. But obviously from a game standpoint, we know what it is and what it's done. Like,
I'll say a very logical thing, Aaron, right? So ERPGs are generally about loot, right? We've already seen with the Diablo 3 auction house, that came in super fucking late, by the way, right?
Yeah.
Like that was one of the decisions in the last couple of months that was made.
Yeah.
We already saw this shit doesn't work, right? Like if you, like people play the game to get items, right? If you do anything to make them play the game less, right? Which the auction house did, right? Like by its nature, people spend more time. Like, why would I play the game if I can get the best fucking thing for like paying $3 or something, right? So it made me play the game less. It literally does not work, right? Then microtransactions became a thing, and now you have the problem, right? And I'm sure developers, right, like the developers at Blizzard are all agreeing with me because it's just the most logical thing, right? That if you want people to pay for stuff, it has to be really cool fucking stuff, right? Because otherwise, why would you pay for it, right?
Yeah.
Which automatically means, well, the stuff that you get naturally is a fucking garbage, right? Because you have to create a need, right? You have to create a want in the player, like, oh my God, that looks so cool. I'm going to buy it, right? And then you have the same problem again. Well, the actual in-game, the stuff that I'm going to give you can never be as cool as the stuff that you can buy. Otherwise, players are going to not buy it, right? And so if you craft your business model around people have to buy shit, then you're giving them a bunch of trash, right? Like that's the only loot tables that you're going to get, right? So on a fundamental level, this shit does not work. I think the much better system is something like what From Software has done, right? Where it's just, we are working on a bunch of crazy cool shit, and every now and then you will pay for the content, right? And then it's all properly integrated into the game. It's all been designed in a certain way, right? Where if you want to get this really cool rare gear and really amazing looking stuff, hey, you have to work for it, right? Like you have to actually put in like the playtime and so on, right? But you're not just flashing your credit card, right? I think on a fundamental level, this shit does not work, and stuff like that could only come from people like Mikey Bauer, right? Because clearly, like he's not a person who would sit down and actually play the game, right? Like otherwise you would come to the same conclusion.
Now you are saying that during Christmas, you're in the Moon Studios working on Wicked, and you think potentially maybe Mike Ybarra during Christmas is not sitting there working on the Diablo franchise himself? Is that what
he's the CEO of a gambling site now, right? Which, I mean, go figure.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Are we ready to pivot out of this, Aaron? You got more?
No. If something comes to me, I'll
naturally. Okay. So are you a dog or a cat person?
Now he asks dog or cat question.
I always had dogs in my life, so I'm very much a dog person.
Oh, okay.
You could keep going. I'm thinking right now.
Okay. What is the most annoying bug that you encountered while creating No Rest for the Wicked?
Frosty, you cut out there. I'm guessing you said, what's the most
annoying bug? Yep.
the most annoying bugs are the bugs that are coming back, right? Or the ones that are hard to reproduce. There isn't just one, right? Over the course of the development, there's always like thousands of bugs, right? But the most annoying ones are always the ones that are hard to reproduce. That fucking sucks.
I've been
that
trying
can ruin
to
your day
reproduce
real
one.
quick.
Like I don't know if I should bring it up, but there's like a 1 out of like a 10,000 chance you might get some like little micro lag on your server, which happened to me. And then when I made a new server and then it went back to my old one, it was fixed. It was gone. And I have no idea how to reproduce that or anything. And I'm just like, I don't know how to report it. I reported it as much as I can. But I mean, I guess something like that must be really annoying.
Monetization.
Those are the worst.
Monetization on Wicked. What are the plans for the future?
The plans is simply that we do content updates, right? Like, oh, by the way, we are going to increase the price of Wicked at some point, right? We always had our early access price, which was set at $40. We think that's pretty fair. What we are seeing is playtime right now is already around 40 to 60 hours for players who play the current content. And that's going to be a lot more at 1.0 even, right? So we think...
So buy now.
Well, yeah, so... I just want to make sure players like don't at some point go back and give us a ton of shit about, hey, why do I have to pay X amount now, right? Because we were in early access for like almost 2 years now, right?
Yeah.
Like you could have bought it at any point, right? So and then the idea is like if you joined early access, that's the reward that you get, right? Like you paid a lot less. You are part of everything. You were able to input your feedback and so on, right? All of that. And then the idea is that we simply do expansions, basically, right? That we like that you guys know, like we're working on a bunch of updates all the time, right? And we'll throw out some cool new stuff all the time. But in the meantime, Moondios is already working on the next big expansion and so on, right? And that expansion is going to cost something. So it's similar-ish to Destiny, except without the microtransaction stuff.
Got it. So never pay for cosmetics, no battle passes, no paid classes. It'll be
no passes, none of that garbage, right? Like we basically following what From Software does, right? Where it's just here's the full game, you pay it once, right? It's good to go, right? And then at some point, if we do some huge expansion, you pay us for the development time, right? It costs us quite a lot to actually develop the game, right? But I think it's totally fair to then say, guys, here's another fucking 30, 40 hours, whatever, right? And that costs you X amount on top, right?
Okay.
But that is the model that we're going for. I think that is the fairest for gamers, right? And it makes a ton of sense. And obviously for us as a studio, we're just 80, 90 people, right? Yeah. It totally works for us. We don't really... And the thing that I don't get is even like the microtransactions numbers that I always get from people, right? When they tell me they're not that interesting anyway, right? Like they're not that crazy high. So I don't even get the whole business model or the whole allure there, right? I just want to have the product out there and also build a lot of trust with people, right? That they know, like we want to basically be where Blizzard was in the early 2000s or something, right? Where hey, Moon Studios is a bunch of crazy people, right? If they put something out there, it's going to be fucking quality, right? And I'm going to buy it.
And for everybody watching, like in the ARPG hack and slash, it's Titan Quest, Grim Dawn. It's going to be that model. No battle passes, no paid cosmetics, basically DLC expansions. That's the plan for Wicked.
Yep.
Okay.
Is parry and dodge and backstabbing going to be easier now in this new patch? And if so, why is it easier?
Dodge wasn't really changed. Parry was changed simply because I looked at it and we actually made it a little bit harder now, right? Because in the beta we got a lot of feedback that people pull it off too frequently, and especially against elites. But especially against elites and giants, right? You could really fuck them up quite a lot, right? So we changed it a little bit, right? With the parry windows, for example, when you parried an elite or a boss, they went into this really long stun state, right? And now we basically made that shorter, right? Like we basically came up with a bunch of animations, right? But they actually just pop back, and then you still get the bonus from it, but it's just you have to react a little bit faster. Other than that, the threshold is actually a little bit longer than it used to be, right? So it's easier to hit that, but you have to your reactions have to be a little bit faster than afterwards.
Okay.
How long have you been smoking a pipe? What kind of pipe is it?
I smoke church warden pipes. I think they have the nicest smoke. I don't know, since I was like 20 something. I can't remember anymore.
Nice. Well, it looks. I like the look of it, and I also like that's in the game. Like,
Yeah, it's in the game.
Yes. We'll even have them for the players, right? So it's going to be an offhand item, similar to quivers and so on, right? That you will be able to smoke your pipe to get extra effects.
okay. Do you know what it's going to be like for like a caster, or what kind of who's going to be using the pipe?
Gandalf's
Anybody can use them, right? Like, because in Lord of the Rings, Aragorn was smoking pipes and so on, right? So I want everybody to be able to use that. It's a little bit like Metal Gear Solid, right? Where it's like, hey, if you smoke a pipe, it drains your health, but it gives you something else, right? That kind of thing.
What is your favorite? Like, what are your archetypes that you like playing in games, or even just in No Rest of the Wicked? Are you like a heavy two-hander? Are you an archer? What do you like playing?
I love heavy two-hand build, right? That's always what I play in Souls games and so on, right? It's also what I main in Wicked. But I usually, like, the thing that happens to me in Wicked is that I'm always very partial to the last weapon that I set up, right? Because I'm getting into a weapon, I do I hook up the animations from our insane animators, right? And then I make sure, like, I play that weapon for some time and have to tweak it and have to make sure it's super fun to me, right? And then I always feel like, man, that's the best fucking weapon I have in the game, right? And then I go to the next one, and I do the same thing, right? And usually it's always the last one that is like, oh my God, this one was really nice.
With multiplayer coming in, any chances for like, a healing, buffing class?
Yeah, that'll come, but I also left it for me for, like, you already can use heal aura and those kind of things, right? To kind of like heal multiple players. But obviously I left it for me for the class system, right? So that if you play a cleric, there's going to be like healer type classes that are more like have more also passive bonuses and so on, that kind of thing.
Cool.
Something just came to mind. I remember now. You with the different elements, you could apply an element to someone like frost, and then your friend can do a fire move, and it does a special effect now.
Mm-hmm.
Combos.
Can you do that on yourself? Like if I threw a like fire grenade and then I shot him with my frost arrow, would that do the same thing?
Yes.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, there's all these really cool tag team kind of things that you can do now, right? Where it's like, hey, if you freeze, but then you apply a physical damage, right? You will do shatter, right? And that applies a bunch of extra damage and so on, right? And I'm actually also working on, I don't have a good name for it yet. I just called it a combo system, right? But it's not really that. It's a call out system. It just basically informs you of exactly what you did, right? Like meaning that if you do the perfect dodge, which is just evade the enemy, like dodge from an enemy's hit, the very moment they hit you, right? So it hits your iframes, that it has like a little thing at the top that tells you that, right? Which works perfectly hand in hand with the enchantment system that we have, right? Because if you have enchantments that are like, hey, gain 5% of health on perfect dodge, right? You want to know exactly when that fucking perfect dodge procced, right? And so like that all kind of like has to work hand in hand, right? Like, and so I want that tag team thing to always be there, right? So that people know, oh, my buddy did this, right? So I have to do this, right? That kind of thing.
We know that No Rest for the Wicked is not a live service game where there's going to be seasons and leagues and things like that. You already explained it's going to be DLCs and expansions. When it comes to endgame, how many different things will be available?
Modes and so on? Yeah.
Like how many different modes? Is it going to be like
There's a lot that we've been working on. Like even for back then for the Crucible update, one of the things that we were already hard at work on but couldn't quite ship back then for the Crucible is a Horde mode, right? And then, funnily enough, Vampire Saviors came out, right, and kind of like did the same thing, right, where it's just, hey, fight a bunch of enemies, and while you are fighting these enemies, you buy a bunch of boons, right, and then the enemies keep coming and so on. So that's one, for example, right? So there's going to be multiple things in the Crucible itself, right? Then obviously we're also going to do more things for the plague system, right? So that's the mode where every area in the world could get infected, and then you have to fight the bosses there. And obviously we're also doing something on top of that, right, where it's like, oh, and if you do this, then X, and then and then you have to get item or resources from this, and then do Y, and right? So that's the thing that we're looking into for 1.0, right? Like, how can we create as many systems and as many really cool rewards, right, as possible in there, right? And
are you thinking about any
people could potentially play for an insane amount of time?
Are you thinking about any like subsystems that are almost different style combat? So, for example, like tower defense or third person mode, or now it actually turns into like a fast-paced, one-shot everything ARPG, where like any crazy out-of-the-box, like, is all that stuff on the table for Wicked in the future?
So for example, for the Crucible, the current mode that we have, right, the roguelite mode, the main inspiration for that was Diablo 1 back then, right? Because I always loved going through Tristram, and then, now I have to go 15 levels down into the Sanctuary and kill Diablo, right? And it's basically the same thing in Wicked, right? Like, you have the Crucible in town, and you have to go, 10 floors down, and then, there's a boss there, and so on, right? And that's going to be the roguelite section, right? Which we also hopefully going to expand quite a bit. And then in there, I also still want to have other modes, right? Like the Vampire Survivors Horde mode inspired thing, right? And so on, and other things as well. And
awesome. That's
and
awesome.
then the other thing that we always said, right, is that one of the things that you can do in town, there's a Sacrament expansion coming, right? So Sacrament is going to grow even larger. It has to, right? Because there's areas that we've been working on for a long time that will only be there for the 1.0 version. So they have to be adjacent to Sacrament, right? We just basically closed off portions of Sacrament so that you can't get there yet. And for example, farming is going to be in there, right? So if you want to play with your wife and she's more into cozy games and so on, right, you can invite her to your game, and then she takes care of the house, which perfectly works with the comfort system that we have now, right? So she can actually take care of all of that, right? Or do the farming and so on, right? So you could play it almost like Stardew Valley and so on. That's the thing I fucking love about Wicked, right? That it never gets boring, because, like, if I get bored of working on this, right, I can just jump over to the roguelite mode and like do crazy stuff there, or do more work on the farming stuff, right, or do more work on this and that. And there's other things that I've already been working on, right? Like, so for example, right after we shipped Breach, Breach Refined, right after we shipped that, I did some explorations, right? And I always, like, I am also a little bit of a fan of survival games, right? And Wicked already has some survival influences, right? So I spent, I think, like 2-3 weeks or something already on a prototype for what would Wicked feel like if we'd actually give you a mode that is completely survival based, right? Where you actually have to create settlements and can create them anywhere you want, right? And then you have to be careful of the night and the weather and so on. And
wait a second, are you talking almost RTS a little bit?
No, not really, right? I'm talking more like it would feel like Don't Starve and those kind of things, right? That was kind of like the reference. And that was really fucking fun. That was like, even that, like that thing that I already had, right, was really fucking fun. Because it is just really cool. Like, there's already all these elements that we have in the game, right? Like, you cut down trees to get wood and so on, right? And then you craft this thing and so on. And then, oh my God, night is coming. So I have to prepare my little settlement and make sure that I have some things that shoot at the enemies and so on, right? That are coming. So those kind of things are going to happen at some point, right? That is one of the expansion things that I want to do after 1.0, right? That I could literally give players a mode where it's like, oh my God, you could play that alone for 100 hours and it would be fucking fun, right? And there's a bunch of this stuff that's why, as a developer, it's the fucking gift that keeps on giving, right? Because we can very easily bring things in because our foundation is pretty strong, and just really have a huge variety of stuff to work on. that's the really, really cool thing about it.
Man, Wicked, like following the genre and all the different games currently in development with live service and even the ones that aren't live service, Wicked, based upon what you're saying, is really going to stand apart. I really don't like if you could bring this to fruition, what you are talking about, farming and the expansions and the different areas and combat and end game and story and cinematic, and make that all play well and smooth. It's going to be pretty special. It's going to be
if
pretty
you think
special.
about it, because of the way we built it, right? Because the foundation is so strong. Usually in most survival games, the combat system is kind of not great, right? And the enemies are kind of not great and so on, right? Because they are just focusing on different things, right? But if we bring this into Wicked, well, automatically you would have the survival game with the best fucking combat system, right? And so on. So that is really interesting, right? If we just bring those systems in and like create this experience together, right? Like put all of this together, you would have such a cool survival experience that you wouldn't have in any other game. And same thing with Vampire Survivors, that kind of thing, right? Like if we throw the Wicked combat system in and so on, it's going to be one of the best games in the genre there, right? Simply because, well, those systems are so strong. So that's going to be really cool. And the way we developed it, I mean, it's been a long time coming, right? We've been working on Wicked since fucking 2016 is, I think, when I did the first prototypes, right? And so that's why I'm saying this year is going to be really exciting for us, because after 10 years of development, we're finally throwing everything out there, right? And all these things will likely come to fruition now, right? And I think players will be quite crazy excited. In many ways, again, it's what Larian has been doing, right? Where we're using early access to kind of like perfect things and to tune things just right, so that when it's time to actually bring the game out, that everybody's going to go, well, where the fuck did that come from, right? Because right now we keep things still a little bit on the down low, right?
Yeah.
So that at 1.0 everybody will go bananas.
Is the next
Frosty, just so you know, I'm good, Frosty.
Yeah.
So anything you got left,
Okay.
I'm good.
Good. Okay, well then first a light one. You said the town's going to be expanding. Currently we can level up shops to level 3. We're going to be going further than that, and there's going to be more shops. Okay, so I answered my own question there. For the end game changes coming, that's all going to be 1.0, the new end game stuff, but is there going to be like tweaks and adjustments to the current end game before 1.0?
Yeah, we'll have to see again. We'll have to see kind of like what the cadence is, right? How we want to throw things out and so on. And I want to kind of like get that feedback from the community, right? Like I don't want to immediately say, hey, we're going to work on this next, right? Because usually it makes sense that we just let it settle for a little bit, right? Like we throw it out there, let it settle. Let's see what the feedback is. Let's see what people are really passionate about now, right? And usually I'm on the Discord all the time anyway, and people can just like I usually get what the community is after.
I've been noticing some feedback for people. For me, I've done the pestilence zones a lot, so it's not really affecting me too much. But new players, when they do pestilence zones, some of them they're having trouble finding all of the creatures to kill. Is there any quality of life that could be coming for that before 1.0?
Yes. So those things, that's exactly what early access is for, right? That we make sure that those systems are hugely tweaked, that there's tons of quality of life, that it's all working smoothly and so on. So yes, those kind of things, absolutely, right? What we don't want to do is, like, for example, Baldur's Gate only had Act 1 available in early access, right? Which I thought was quite smart, because they could polish the fuck out of the game, get all the really valuable feedback from all the players, right? And not have the issue of, hey, 1.0 comes out and whatever, I played the game already anyway. That's kind of what happened to Hades 2 a little bit now, right? Where people played it already in early access, and then 1.0 came out and was kind of like, yeah, it's really good, but I kind of played it already in early access, right? We want to hold things back a little bit, so that by the way, even in terms of story, right? I don't want people to see any of the fucking story, any of the stuff that we've been playing, because it's fucking crazy, right? So I want to get them really excited about that, right? Like, so that you still have that moment of like, when 1.0 comes out, everybody's going to play, everybody's going to have that first time experience of, wow, that campaign was fucking nuts.
I don't know if you followed Grimlore with Titan Quest 2. but at least myself and my community think that they're doing a good job on early access. That's exactly what they did. Their early access dropped to polished Act 1. They fixed all the bugs, then dropped to polished Act 2, fixed all the bugs, and now we're dropping a polished Act 3. And it like feels like early access instead of like the whole game is dropped and then they just slowly fix all the problems with it.
I think for complex games, right? And I would say ARPGs are an extremely complex genre, right? Like they're just mind-bogglingly fucking complex, right? It's like building a rocket, right? So for those, that early access model and CRPGs as well, right? You saw the same thing with Baldur's Gate 3. For those, that kind of business model makes a ton of sense, right? That people can already play it, they can look at it. The hardcore fans can already try it, they can give all their feedback and so on, right? Now with co-op, like you can come in and have a cool co-op experience, right? But you're not going to ruin the game for yourself, right? Even if you play the sections that we have in the game right now, who cares, right? Like you haven't, like half the game is still hidden from you, right? So there's still going to be plenty of stuff for you to do by 1.0. But I think it's a win-win for players and companies, right? Because then it's just this whole, you're going to get a really cool experience. It's really fucking complex, right? But you can also have a ton of input and so on. You have a way to kind of like shape the experience, so tell developers what you guys would like to see and so on, right? And then on the development side, it just gives us the time and the knowledge of like polishing things, right? Because usually what happened in games was that you made the game and then you did UR, right? But UR is like, okay, here's a group of 60 people, right? And it's not necessarily representative of the crazy ARPG crowd, right? You're not going to get 60 hardcore PoE players or something, right?
Yeah.
But with early access, those are the people that are going to join your discords, right? Those are the crazy passionate people that if you do something slightly wrong in your ARPG systems and so on, they will tell you, right? Or I'm jumping onto the streams, right? Like I'm jumping onto Aaron playing Wicked or Frosty playing Wicked, right? And I'm seeing exactly what is your guys' experience and how can I make that even better so that by the time 1.0 comes out, it's fucking crazy.
Nice.
Yeah, I think it's a good way of doing it. You want to hear from the people that are passionate about the game. You want to kind of like design the game for those people. Because if you don't, like, it's like, what do you do? You're just trying to get like the casual audience that might pick it up for a day. They might put it down. They might return it. Who knows? Like, just after I say this, we probably should go to the questions. It is getting late, but I really loved Monster Hunter games, and with the latest Monster Hunter Wilds, they made a major mistake, and they catered to casual audience because everyone's like, "Oh, the game's hard." The core audience loves how difficult the game was. They made the game super easy, and it tanked so quickly that they ended up regretting it and then just trying to backtrack, but people didn't come back. So, just pay attention to what you're saying. Just your core audience, the people that are passionate, and the audience, the player base should follow.
You always have to be really careful with success in general, right? Like, because what happened with Monster Hunter is it was always a really hardcore game, right? They always had the problem, right, that in Japan, the series was always really popular, right? They always sold like 3-4 million copies, right? But then in the West, it didn't do anything, right? But then Monster Hunter World came out and they sold 20 fucking million copies, right? And what happens automatically then is that it's not the designer's game anymore, right? It's the, executives and so on that tell them, hey, last game you sold 20 million copies. How can you now sell 30 million copies, right? Yeah. And so automatically what happens is, well, you're going to try to expand the group, like try to expand it and make it bigger so that a bigger group can come in, right? And usually a lot of times that means, oh, we should dumb the game down to make sure the casuals can also play it, right? And let's put a ton of tutorials in there and everything, right? And it's just at some point, right? Like you're not like you're betraying the audience that made you big in the first place, right? And that doesn't really work, right? So I'm kind of worried about that. And it's same thing happened to Elden Ring now, right? Like I did not like, for example, and I'm painfully aware that I'm in the minority, right? But I'm not a fan of open world games because I know how these open worlds are designed, and I think it's always shit. I think it's not, like, without tooting my own horn too much, right? I think generally, if you look at the feedback that people have for the level design in Wicked, people love it, right? Because it's fucking handcrafted by designers. We labor over these levels, over every inch, right? And then ultimately, because of years of process, we're going to get to a huge fucking open world anyway, but one where it's not just, oh, hold the analog stick forward for 5 minutes and you're running through an empty fucking zone, right? But one where it's like, no, you actually have to pay attention and like everything is intentionally designed, right? And my worry is that what you're going to see from Software might be the same thing, right? That they sold 30 fucking million copies of Elden Ring. So my worry is, okay, now every Souls game is going to be an open world game, right? Simply because that worked exponentially better than any other Souls game before, even though they had better level design, right? Like Souls, the Elden Ring is not the Souls game that has the best level design, just from a designer's perspective, right? It just isn't, right? The legacy dungeons are cool, but the actual open world has the same exact problems that every fucking open world has.
Frosty?
Yeah, Q&A, let's switch over to that, but my favorite was Bloodborne. That's my favorite From Software.
Mine would be between Dark Souls 1 because of that level design. That was fucking crazy.
So
the way they built the world, unbelievable. I think that still has such a huge effect on the industry. And Bloodborne is just the tightest fucking Souls game that they made. Right?
Yeah, I see a lot of like I'm gonna call it Act 1 area in your game, No Rest for the Wicked. It kind of reminds me a lot like Dark Souls 1 level design.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas, I actually do have
Kalen
one
will
more.
be kind of like Bloodborne, so you're gonna like that.
I've got one more question for you, and then we're going to switch everybody to the live Q&A. Do you think what do you think is pushing the genre more forward or doing a better job? If you had to pick a team, Blizzard with Diablo or Grinding Gear Games with Path of Exile?
I mean, it's not even of course Grinding Gear Games, right? Like this.
That takes us to the live Q&A. All right, everybody. So, friendly reminder, we are giving away 2 copies of No Rest for the Wicked at the end of this Q&A, all right? So, if you're on YouTube or Twitch, all you got to do is type in !giveaway to get into that drawing. We're going to do that at the end of the podcast. All right, everybody, we are now at the live Q&A portion. It is impossible for me and Frosty to ask Thomas every question. So please don't feel disrespected if we do not get to your question. Obviously, you can go over to the Wicked Discord and ask your questions as well. So we'll do our best to get through as many as possible. And obviously, Thomas, you being quick with your answers, we will get through more questions as best as possible. So if anybody has a question for Thomas, CEO, game director for Wicked, feel free to put it in the chat, and me and Frosty will do our best. Okay.
Our first question, are achievements planned in 1.0?
Of course, yeah. We already did all of that, right? But that only makes sense once 1.0 hits. So, yeah.
Thomas, can you say anything about the farming system, when that will be implemented? Is that like a faraway goal? Is that a 1.0 goal?
You guys should ask Patrick on our Discord. He's our farming guy. It's his baby, so I want to give all of that to him.
Okay.
Will there or can there be an option to hide the elemental effect on a weapon if someone wants to just have a weapon that it still does ice damage but doesn't have the ice effect on the weapon?
That's a good thing. We didn't think of that yet, frankly. We're kind of stupid. We just did the thing where you can hide helmets because people asked for that, but that's an interesting thing. Yeah, I'll bring that up to the team.
Okay.
Nice.
Any thoughts on making nighttime more interesting? Maybe different monsters, harder monsters, things of that nature.
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
With vendors having a random selection of items, is there an incentive for people just to stay in one world, or for the hardcore players, should they make another world to just kind of like look at the different loot options they might have?
Well, you can always do that, right? Like if you have multiple realms, like that obviously makes it a little bit easy on you, right? But the game is obviously designed for you to kind of like play on one realm, right? And to continue that way.
Any thoughts on a spin to win class in the future or weapon?
No.
Okay.
Oh, wait a second.
Will there be a Crucible update for 1.0? For example, a second level?
Yes. Not just one, right? But multiple. You already see the statues in the game, so you can take a look at that.
Okay.
I lost the word, but the bloods that you get off killing a boss, once your character's fully maxed out, is there any plans of Plague Ickers? Is there any plans of using Plague Ickers after they have no use for your character progression?
Yeah, I would collect all these Plague Ickers and Goat Blood as well. It's gonna be good.
Goat Blood, huh?
I know
there is no cow level.
I know all games or developers are always working on performance. There's been talks that Wicked, there needs to be a lot of performance improvements as you move towards 1.0. Just thoughts, development.
Yeah, I mean, we are working on console versions right now, right? And obviously we're getting closer towards the end, right? Optimization always happens more towards the end and so on. So there's going to be quite a bit of work that we're still doing there, right? Like we have to get Wicked to run on the weaker platforms now, right? Like, and that's what we saw with Ori as well, right? Ori initially, when we shipped Wisps, for example, we had some stutters on the original Xbox One, right? And then we ultimately made it run at 60 frames on Switch, right? So it's just something that happens later in development. Once it's not a moving target anymore, right? The game, then it's fairly straightforward. Not easy, right? But then you know exactly how to optimize and what to optimize.
Awesome.
Do the servers, the multiplayer servers, have different region locations for where they're being hosted? What someone specifically wants to know, there's an Oceanic
Yes, and
one?
we also just added Oceania, yeah, so that Australians and so on will be, I'm sure, quite happy about that.
Question about the class system. Will there be a limit to the number of talents you can mix and match in the class system?
Right now it's 6. So there's a lot of like traits, but you can do 6 at a time.
Are item affixes in a spot where you feel comfortable with them, or are they subject to change further?
No, obviously they're still subject to change because that also like will have an effect on class system and so on, right? Affixes are something that we're always going to work on, right? Even post 1.0 and so on. I'm sure there's always going to be things where people find some exploits or find something, or hey, we came up with this really interesting new idea, right? So affixes are just great for that, right? Like, hey, allow the players to play the game in a different way by adding these extra affixes and so on. So obviously, yeah, we'll keep going there.
A lot of the community knows your opinion on the Diablo franchise, D3, D4. What about other ARPGs, PoE, LE, Grim Dawn, Torchlight? Do you take any influence for Wicked from like the hack and slash genre?
Yeah, I mean, a ton. Obviously, I'm a huge Diablo 2 fan, right? So I loved ARPGs. And by the way, I don't want to come off as the guy who shits on all ARPGs, right? I'm just the guy who is making or is trying to make the next gen ARPG, right? Meaning we had to look at, is that point and click combat system that you see in Diablo and Path of Exile 2 still, right? Is that still the best thing, right? And obviously I'm biased, right?
Yeah.
But I want to advance the genre forward, right? That's what we want to do with everything that we touch, right? We want to push the status quo. And I have my clear opinions on that. Mostly, like, I love Diablo 2. I think it's one of the best games ever created, right? So that's usually, as in terms of ARPGs, that's what we're looking at. I am very concerned about these kind of like corporate ARPGs, right? Like a Diablo, right? Where it's like, I don't like the direction that has headed into, because I think that fundamentally clashes with the game design, like I explained. And other than that, I mean, ARPG fans have a lot to look forward to, right? Like there's a lot coming.
Yeah.
And these games are at a really high level of quality, right? So I think it's like they're eating well.
After this January 22nd major patch, is there going to be any major patches before 1.0, or is the next major patch going to be 1.0?
We obviously have our own internal roadmap, right? But I want to first see what is the what's the outcome of like how do people react to together and so on, so that we can pivot if we have to, right? I don't want to come out with this fancy marketing image of like, here's what we're going to work on next, right?
Yeah.
And then, oh shit, that's totally not what the community wants, right? So let's reboard that. And by the way, now here's the updated roadmap, right? This happened to us before.
With the introduction of other little towns, will you be able to purchase housing or huts or something in these other settlements?
Yes, but that'll come after 1.0.
Okay.
So the other, like Havenport and Tier and so on, they're not for 1.0 itself, right? But in that period after 1.0, as we're working on the next game.
Okay.
When
so many questions.
Yeah. When you just tell us to stop whenever. When new zones are going to be, when there's new zones in 1.0, will you be adding secret areas and other little parts of zones to the older areas?
Yes, of course. Yes. We did this before, by the way, right? Like with Breach, suddenly there was a tower in the coast even, right? Yeah. And now you could enter that and so on. And there's going to be more connections, right? Like, and so on. So yeah, we ultimately, we want to look at the whole world and make that a fucking masterpiece, right? In terms of like how it's connected and how everything is intertwined and how it unfolds and so on, right? So there's going to be a lot of that. There's even, if you look at Mariner's Keep, right, and the west side of Mariner's Keep, there's even the door already that, there's all of these things that were already planned that we're just going to fulfill.
Question
I found a new cave in the first zone just like last week. I was like, where was this the entire time? From?
Question
by the way, that comes from me playing A Link to the Past as a kid, right? And I always loved the idea of like, hey, I'm in Kakariko. What like and there's this west side of Kakariko. There's all like filled up with trees, right? And I was always wondering, what is to the left of that, right? And obviously nothing, right? Like they just never designed anything for that, right? But I always loved the idea that wouldn't it be so cool if you would enter the game at some point, right? And you'd find a way to get there, right? And that's what I'd want to see with Wicked, right? That you just openly randomly open the game at some point, right? And you're like, wait, where's this fucking door leading, right? And then, oh my God, are you kidding me? I've never seen this place before.
Question about PvP, considering mod in mind. Is PvP limited to same realm or multi-realm connections could be possible? Example, an arena-like for the future.
The arena is, for now, going to be just what it is, right? Like it's on the realm. We'll have to see kind of like how people feel about doing worldwide stuff and so on. Yeah.
Now this is actually, sorry, chat, but this is one of my questions. I've been doing some speed running lately of the game, and
by the way, I'm actually talked bullshit. We already had 1v1, 2v2, and then free for all, right? So the actual arena mode, like you were already able to play on realm or against whoever gets matched with you.
Okay.
Oh, nice. Would you consider adding predetermined items in the game? Like there used to be when the game before Breach, you had to go and do some crazy parkour stuff to get to the 2 silver nodes in the game to upgrade your gear. Now silver is not a big deal. Those 2 secret areas exist. Could they possibly have like you go there and there's the infinite climbing ring, or it always has like the pants that have
there's
like
gonna be a new
speed.
chest. Yeah, there's like we have small chest, normal chest, medium chest, special chest. There's also gonna be royal chest, and those are gonna be hand placed by us designers in like specific locations, but they are a one-time thing.
Okay.
Would you be willing in the future to have artists, writers join the podcast to discuss graphics and lore?
I think we should do a lot more of that, right? Like that. I always hear that on the Discord, right? That they like people want to see more of the team and so on, right? So I definitely want to do that, right? But keep in mind, right? Like developers often also don't want to necessarily stand in front of the camera and so on, and it takes quite a bit of time, right? But I want to see more of that. We already introduced Patrick and Corey now, right? So it will be fun to kind of like have people like Jeremy from the story team and Teal and Nick and so on sit down and kind of like just explain, what their thinking is with the story and like do behind the scenes stuff and so on. Oh, and by some behind the scenes stuff we already shot, right? And we're going to use this as marketing assets to kind of like just promote the 1.0 release.
Nice.
Also, it'd be fun to see some people talk about No Rest for the Wicked while playing co-op No Rest for the Wicked. Just my own personal thing. While you're talking, you're playing.
Oh, I know what you
co-op.
mean. Yeah, that would be fun. I have to check with the team who's actually willing to kind of like stream and so on. Because it's really fucking hard, by the way, guys. Like I have a lot of respect for what streamers do, right? Because playing and talking at the same time, I know that streamers often get so much shit, right? It's fucking hard. Like it's really difficult.
That's why I don't play hardcore. I just have to ignore everyone.
I had to do it once now, right, for this community stream, and it's like, oh my god, I watched myself playing, and I was so cringy, right? Where it's like I didn't parry, I didn't use runes or anything, right? Because I'm like, no, dude, I'm trying to explain some concept. It's a left brain, right brain thing, right? Where I'm trying to explain some difficult concept, and at the same time, I have to be good at the game. It's like the whole rub your belly thing.
Yeah, just okay. Now chat's saying, "Oh, streamer's so hard." I will say it's not. Streaming's not hard. Reading is hard while playing. That's it.
These are all good excuses. I like these. I'm gonna remember these. Thomas, any thoughts on boats? Maybe exploring different islands, leaving. Like, what do you think? Anything with boats?
That is going to happen anyway after 1.0, because you're going to leave Isola Sacra after that, so that's going to come in.
All right, awesome.
The update coming up is going to have a bar for when you're like mining and like chopping down wood, and it's going to show you the perfect point to get a perfect spot hit. Are there any future plans for that type of gathering, like enchanting your potential tools?
Yes, that's exactly why we brought it in, right? Like that was basically just the first step of that, right? Like I want to have enchanted tools in there so that you also can be very proud of that woodcutter's axe that you have, right? Out of your pickaxe, right? And this was one of the things that I already brought in as like, hey, that perfect spot. Wouldn't it be cool if like it could be bigger, right? If you have a better axe and so on. Or, if you get more loot from it and so on. Yes, that's obviously one thing, like something that we want to bring in.
Okay.
Obviously,
there's more, but
yeah, don't spoil anything unless you want to. Secret cow level style stuff in Wicked in the future?
Maybe.
That's a yes. All right, perfect. I like that. Frosty?
Maybe a goat level.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when you said collect goat blood. Can we get goat blood in the game right now?
Yes, you can.
Okay, guys.
There's a goat in the game. If you kill it,
there you go.
You will get goat blood.
There's so many questions. I don't know. Let's just do a couple more Frosty and then call it.
Okay.
I'm sorry, everybody. There's like 30 right now I'm looking at.
Oh, everyone's just talking about goats now.
I know. Now goat. Now everyone's. I shouldn't have asked. See, now everyone's going to be like goat level confirmed.
Yeah. I guess someone's asking. You must be excited. Oh, you know what? Yeah, I have two questions. You must be really excited how well indie games are doing in this current climate. And my question is, so with the success of the movie Wicked, is that beneficial for No Rest for the Wicked, or is it annoying?
Well, it fucks up our search results. So
SEO messes it up.
That's that. Yeah, but no, that's not a thing.
Community member Ben Diesel is asking over and over again, will there ever be a Paragon system to Wicked in the future as far as class progression?
I really want people to first kind of like experience the class system, right? Because it's already something that you're potentially going to spend hundreds of hours on, right? So let's see. I'm not a huge fan necessarily, and I would love to know from you two guys, right? I'm not a huge fan of Paragon systems because a lot of times they then turn out to be, spend 20 hours to get 0.02% extra this and you barely feel it, right? I always want something like, if I put a carrot in front of your nose, it needs to be a golden fucking carrot that is really delicious, right? And not get 0.2% something, right?
I thought about this actually for No Rest of the Wicked. If you did have you level past a certain point, and when you get to a bar filled, you can maybe get, I guess, a point or something, and there's a chest in the city that you can just now open for every time you fill your bar, and it's a random assortment of stuff.
For me,
it's really not
progression.
progression.
Yeah, for me, end game progression is normally gear. So that's, you hit your max level or whatever level it is, you get your attribute points, and now it's about fine-tuning and perfecting your gear instead of running a dungeon 10,000 times to get 2 strength. That's just,
I want the rewards to usually be something that I would be excited about, right? And if I look at a lot of the Paragon systems and so on, it's just, I get why this is in there, right? But dude, I'm not going to spend the next 20 hours playing the game, the same shit over and over again to get like 0.2% more damage or something. I don't care.
It's way more fun to exalt your item perfectly to get an item that breaks the game than farming for 5,000 hours to break the game.
Community member Brow wants to know, when can we expect Wicked Immortal mobile? Is that
mobile?
How about never? But I mean, I would want to get Wicked onto mobile at some point, right? Because it doesn't, like, why not, right? Like, if we can get the same game running, great, But we're not gonna turn it into fucking, especially after what I said about the power, right? Like, I'm not gonna turn around and like MTX
if you
shit
want
out of
Wicked,
it and do a Korean thing.
If you would like Wicked on your phone, this is not a sponsor. You get NVIDIA GeForce Now, and you connect a wireless controller to your phone, and you can play Wicked on your phone. But someone wants to know, I know it's coming out for console, but the less popular Mac, is there plans for that?
You mean on Mac OS?
I don't know. They just said Mac.
Yeah, Switch 2 and Mac is what the question is.
Yeah, we have it. We have the editor now run on Mac OS, right? So it just makes sense that at some point we have like native Linux and Mac versions.
Nice.
Okay.
Frosty, I mean,
these are really small markets though, right? So I don't know when this will happen, right? But we'll have to see. Obviously, it makes a ton more sense for us to do a PS5 release, because people would fucking kill us if we release or put our development time into a Mac version before we do PS5.
Yeah, I don't really know how Mac works now, but I know once they come out the M1 chips, like all the game developing companies were like, this is too annoying. I'm not dealing with this anymore. And they stopped.
It is pretty exciting to me though, right? Like I like the idea that I could play Wicked with the fucking device I have in my pocket, right? That it doesn't matter where I play. And if it's all cross-play, cross-save and so on. Like, I like the idea that people could sit in the bus, right? And just whip out their phone and like play a little bit, right? And like level up a little bit and then go back to the house, right? And hey, now I keep the progress, right? That I got from farming on my phone during my ride to college and back or something, right? But
Frosty, I feel bad. I just checked YouTube. There's some questions there too, so I'm just gonna ask a couple. I know we talked about necromancer. What about like just pets or companions? Also like transform. So like you turn into a wolf, a bear, a druid style class for Wicked.
This is not something that we're doing for 1.0, right? But obviously after that, right? And a lot of the stuff that we're doing for Necro might just, help with that. But that, like, there's still gonna be, like, we have to lock things down, right? So that we hit our 1.0 release date. And after that, again, we'll do the same thing that we always do. We look at what does the community want, right? What are they really passionate about? And then, well, let's see what we designers can come up with and what our, tech folks and so on can do, right? And, we want to make people happy. So let's see.
Awesome. Oh my gosh. Do you see the last question that just Paladin class when? You don't have to answer.
That will be a thing in the class system. Yeah, that exists.
Oh. Okay. I mean, the questions are not gonna. I'm gonna call it right now. Final question: have connection issues been looked at / fixed for co-op? I mean, I'm sure you guys are working on it. It's just I'm
Well,
calling.
that's exactly why we ran the beta, right?
Yeah.
Because we wanted to see what are actually the connection issues. What happens if people from Russia and China and so on all play, and like what errors do we get, right? That was the main reason why we had the beta, right? So that we would be able to see all those issues and so on, and hopefully fix all of them, right? But knock on wood, right? Like we did a lot, but shipping multiplayer is really hard, right? Maybe there is still something that somebody is gonna see, right? But we're gonna fix the shit out of it, right? Like if we see issues as co-op goes live, obviously we'll do our best to kind of like fix that as soon as possible.
Awesome. Guys, we are almost an hour over time right now. Thomas, thank you for being such an awesome sport and answering all these questions for the community. There's something very refreshing about, the way you carry yourself and the way you answer questions, just down to earth, trustworthy, no fluff, no political talk. Like we just really appreciate you coming on the podcast, and we would love for you to be able, obviously, update January 22nd. If you want to give a final little pitch to everybody watching, obviously there'll be VODs and a lot of people checking this out.
I just hope people really enjoy what we're putting out, right? Like, so No Rest for the Wicked Together launches on January 22nd, and it brings in co-op, right? You can play with up to 3 players. It's awesome. But it also brings in a ton of polish. And a lot of new features and so on, so that even people who only play single player, I think, will really get a kick out of what we have planned.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm having a blast playing the game. And everyone,
I'll definitely
feel
watch
free
the 2 of you playing. So
yeah, I'm down. I'm definitely gonna be playing. I have a lot of builds I want to try work on.
I had my bow
build
build
do a
going.
realm with Aaron, right, and play together.
We'll try. I play on new dad hours at like 11 p.m. at night, and Aaron probably's bedtime is that time. But we'll try at least and get a night or 2 in.
What's that supposed to? You're saying I go to bed
share
early?
share a realm.
Yeah, you got the old man nap time hours. Yeah. So someone also was just wondering, the servers are not being reset before the 22nd. You can buy the game now and you can play, and it'll be still active on the 22nd. No resets until 1.0, correct?
Exactly. There's no wipes until 1.0, but I mean, obviously, it makes a lot of sense given all the new items and all of the stuff that you start fresh, right? But it's up to the players, right? If you don't want to start fresh, you don't have to.
There you go. All right, Frosty, you get the final word. Go ahead.
I didn't plan anything. Farm those goat bloods. There is no goat level. Thanks again, Thomas. Congratulations.
Oh, by the way, let me announce one thing that I completely forgot.
Go ahead.
Because that's going to be, that is big. So we had people always shit on the timers, right? In Wicked, because they didn't like the idea that, I have to wait for something and so on. We removed the timers.
Oh.
So that's going to be huge, I think, for a lot of people.
That's good for me.
So when you do city upgrades, it's no longer come back in an hour, 2 hours. It's instant.
Yeah, it's 5 seconds, right? So every single upgrade, doesn't matter what it is, 5 seconds. And on refineries, there's also a timer, right? But there's now a fuel system, right? So that if you have your furnace and you're refining things and you find coal, you can throw the coal in the furnace and then boom, that,
that's so good.
That is so much. Timers do suck. I think that is a great decision.
Coming from someone who can only play 2 hours a night and having to wait the next day to have fun with my upgrades, that is amazing.
Well, there you go. Got some exclusives there, guys.
There you go. Good. Frosty, Thomas, guys.
Yeah, we're good. Thanks again. Thank you, everyone, for showing up.
That's going to do it. Townportal Podcast, episode 13. We are done. We are now going to be moving to the post show where we're going to give away a couple copies of No Rest for the Wicked. So stick around for a few minutes. Thomas, Frosty, thanks, guys, so much.
Thanks for having me, guys.